Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming out. We'll open this meeting. I think we'll go through by each board by roll call to open the meeting. So for select board,
Upton present.
Jefferson here.
Alamo present.
Dauphiné here.
Foley here.
I'm Amy Marr, Chair of the School Committee.
Laura here.
Leora here.
Rebecca here.
Christy here.
For the Finance Committee, we'll do roll call as well. Start with Kyle.
Kyle here. Nick here.
Skip here.
Greg here.
Victoria is here in person, and online we also have Heather. McHugh is here. And Mark Haddad is here. We'll do it for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we can start. So hopefully, in terms of the way I wanted to try to structure this, first of all, welcome to all of the committee members. Thank you to Amber for getting all of these people in a room at once. That was a feat. And thank you in advance to Jay and Evan, our superintendent and our town administrator, for the work that they've done to put together tonight's presentation. We have an overflow room upstairs. It looks like right now there's no one up there, but we still have some space in the room. And thank you to everyone who's come out. So what I'd like to start with is having Jay and Evan kind of give us a sense of how things are looking in terms of the budget, and then what we can do is try to be as concise as we can and, you know, not repeat what other people have said, and just go around and have people, giving up people an opportunity on the boards to weigh in, express concerns, questions, support, etc. So, pass it over.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, just a quick recap, because this has been kind of bandied about. So, the main drivers of how we get here, we had an $800,000 increase in health insurance this year, which is definitely an anomaly. It's well outside of what we would have anticipated. We had originally carried about a $200,000 increase, which historically has been about where we run, but nowhere close to the 800,000. And our unclassified line, which is inclusive of health insurance, is up $1.3 million, which is pretty much our entire 2.5 growth just in that one side. We also continue to struggle with inflation, especially in public sector bidding and buying. Our purchasing power is greatly decreased, and everything just keeps outpacing how we grow each and every year. All right, so we were asked, Jay and I, by the TRICOM to put together some override projection numbers, and so we've done that. And I just want to go through them really quickly. I believe we were asked to do this in 4 different ways, and so this is how they are. So if you were to do a level services approach, no reductions at all, we were estimating the gap to be about 1.6 million. And if you did that as a one-time, one-year override, that's $237.79 annually. Now, it's important to note, and it says this in the sidebar, this is the average taxpayer's single-family home. So it could be, if you had a $1.5 million home, it's like $3,300, and if your house was, say, $250,000, it's down in the $600 range. Nope, that's a 5-year number.
That's good.
Scratch that. I'm going to do that exact same calculation when I get to 5 years. Okay. So we also talked about getting an override look for the reduction budget, which would require us to do a yearly 1-year override at $600,000 is $87.61 annually. We were also asked to look at 5-year overrides. So level services, no reductions. That's that 1.6 million for this year, 9 million total. As we look at the forecast all the way out, that's about $1,340 at that full cost. That is the number that I was just talking about. So that is $3,300 for about a $1.5 million house, about $500 for a $250,000 house. The reduction budget that we've been discussing, that $800,000 reduction, 5-year override, it gets down to close to $5 million, which is $744 annually. It's important to note that the way that we've structured overrides in the past and the conversation that we've had, that's not year one, because year one you use up all the capacity created by the override. that gradually builds up over the 5 years, but that is the amount that it would be at year 5. Okay.
Evan?
Yes, sir.
The first scenario was 1.6 million, the second scenario is 1.4 million. Wondering why the difference there? The $800,000 reduction results in a 600,000 override.
That may have been the 200,000
BBT.
Right.
for revenue generation of the program up at the high school that we're going to put in place.
So that wasn't, it just wasn't applied to the
That's
first
my
scenario.
guess.
Okay,
Yeah, right. Thank you, Jay.
thanks.
Okay. So this is the new budget that we're proposing to all of you tonight. It's a total increase of 5.14%. You can see that we did have some luck with our Health and Human Services number. We also had some luck with the BBT number that came in this year. And so that puts the schools, our public school district at 47,275,233, which is the number you reach after you take the original $48 million number and subtract 809,000, give or take, from that. Go ahead to the next slide. All right. So, as we just showed you, puts our total budget at $85,706,904. We have adjusted the expenses to match that exactly, which leaves us with not a surplus or a deficit. We are balanced exactly. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you would get to there, because it's not without some cooperation. So the plan, as Jay and I have discussed, and as we would recommend, is to reduce school spending, not spending, but the requested ask by $809,300. Man, I've been saying that backwards all day. $809,392. In order to make this plan work, we've been talking a lot at the select board level about our solid waste program, also known as trash. And so what we would need is that the select board would need to instruct me to create a municipal solid waste enterprise fund with the intention of moving all of the municipal solid waste spending into said enterprise fund for the operating budget for fiscal 27. I would then recommend the use of $600,000 of stabilization. We are able to use stabilization for this purpose under Chapter 40, Section 5B. We can use it for emergencies and unforeseen expenses. I do believe that health insurance increase of $800,000 qualifies us for that unforeseen expense. And our bond rating would be protected with this scenario because we could replenish that $600,000 with free cash. And if the board agreed to shift municipal solid waste to an enterprise fund, we would be clearly demonstrating that we have a plan to close that shortfall in the future. That $600,000 hole that we've made by using one-time revenue. We would also need some kind of a plan, and I think you're all here, so the plan is imminent. But to recognize the need that we need to change our funding strategy in some way, whether that's an override or some other mechanism, new growth, a whole bunch of different strategies probably, right? And we would really need to be spending more time together with our 5-year forecasting model so that we're not getting to budget season and it being a little bit of a surprise that we've shown a deficit, because we've been showing a deficit was coming for multiple years. Go to the last slide, please. Lastly, just a snapshot, and this is kind of small. We'll have the slide deck online. As you can see, we've now created in the 5-year forecast a zero deficit for fiscal 26. We're still projecting a $14 million. 1.4. Yeah, I'll get there. There's a lot of people in here, stressing me out. $1.4 million deficit for fiscal 27, and that carries out to what is ostensibly a $5.4 million shortfall in 2030. and that's just as it sits today. So again, no more changes, no more interventions, free growth, new growth stays flat, all of those things, that's where you would end up. Of course, that's 2030, it's a ways off, and I think we've got a lot of work to do, and that number would change as we go. But that's a snapshot of today, with entering the values that we just showed you for fiscal 26.
Evan,
Yes, sir.
is that level services from the reduced budget for the rest of this chart?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That incorporates the $800,000 kind of reduction.
Okay.
There's one hand on Zoom, Mr. Dad.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Evan,
Mark?
could I ask a question? On the 600,000 that you want to take out of stabilization, you said you'd later replenish it from free cash. Is there enough free cash this year to do that without touching stabilization? Or are you waiting until free cash gets certified in the fall to replenish stabilization?
The answer is yes. So we both have enough now that we could just use free cash. My intent was to give us a little bit of time, so we would take it out in the spring, replenish it in the fall. We have already received enough, in the way of what's going to be certified as free cash to have it on hand in the fall, and that's the only reason I was planning it that way, Mark.
The only difference is if you take it out of free cash, it's a majority vote at town meeting. If you take it out of the stabilization fund, it's a 2/3 vote. So strategy-wise, you might want to consider doing the free cash vote because the budget is a majority vote, not a 2/3 vote. So if you want to stay consistent, you might want to think about if you're going to do this, to take the money out of free cash now, since you're going to just be replenishing it anyway in the fall. Just
Yep.
my 2 cents.
That makes sense.
Okay, if we can just hold, so are you
I'm done.
going? You're done?
I'm
Okay.
done for right now.
Okay. And Jay, did you have anything?
Not much to add. Certainly, as superintendent in favor of that middle ground plan. The schools remain stable.
Sorry,
Obviously,
Jay.
there's a
Sorry, excuse me. Could you just maybe twirl that mic over? Yeah.
the schools would remain stable. We decrease that override total whenever that is significantly. If it was a 5-year override, we'd be looking at a decrease of that overall number by 4 million, which is obviously significant. I would like to think that would increase the odds of an override passing. It also provides us some additional time. It's very wishful thinking. We've said this countless year after year about the state kind of getting its act together in terms of funding. It does give us some time for that to potentially happen. And as Evan said, it gives us more time for planning, which would be great. So as superintendent, I am all for this plan.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so go ahead and open it up to members of the boards. Go ahead.
So what does the $809,000, you can cut by that much and still maintain level services?
I mean, it's obviously not ideal, but I don't think
Right.
anything we're talking about tonight is ideal. So we'd have that revenue generation of 200,000 that I can go into, but essentially we're going to rebuild or build up using out of district tuitions our medically fragile program at the high school. We'll bring in 200,000, and then that decreases from 809 to 609, the reductions. We'd have non-personnel supplies, 162,000. Programming, math support, and halftime preschool, and then some support positions in technology, human resources, maintenance, and curriculum. So again, none of them ideal, but in terms of day-to-day experience of students, we will remain whole and stable.
And are we losing would we be losing current positions in this?
We would. Right now, in terms of bumping is fairly complex. Once that plays out, I think we'll have either between 0 and 1.5 unemployment. So 6 positions, but we're going to have other openings that they would have certification and could be placed into.
Between 0 and 1.5 FTEs going to unemployment?
Correct.
Is that what
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Depending on the bumping scenario.
Okay. So it's possible that we wouldn't have any.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And one of the 1/2 preschool you think is likely going to happen either way?
Correct. Yep. As the numbers stand right now, I basically framed it to our special education director. If we hit the town lottery, would we have that position? And based on the numbers, we would not.
Madam Chair. For clarification purposes, the school committee approved the budget as 47.8 million. We've already taken into account the 200,000 that he's receiving in revenue. So in reality, we're looking at the $609,000 in reductions, not an $809,000 number.
Yeah, which Jay just
Right, so just
stated.
for
Okay.
clarification of what the school committee, the budget is as of right now is 47.8 million.
Yep, understood. Yeah, and so just to clarify for folks here, there's potential or great potential to bring in this program, the medically fragile kids at the high school, and that could potentially bring in the 200,000. That kind of brings that down to 609.
Dr. Cummings, can you talk a little bit about the maintenance reduction? I know you.
Yeah,
expressed
we've
some
got a
concern.
retirement. It knocks our maintenance staff from 7 down to 5, where there was a position retirement earlier in the year that we didn't fill this year, and we will have another retirement, and we're not going to fill it. So it won't trigger unemployment, but we're definitely bare bones.
Is the plan to return those positions?
That would be the ideal. If that's certainly on the list of things. If we have the funding, we would definitely bring that position back. 5 people and 600,000 square feet. That's pushing it, but the team's doing great. They really are.
So the return of those positions, 1 or 2, are those in the override scenarios?
No, currently they're not.
Okay. Are there any other positions like that we would expect to come in potentially?
I'm going to say no right now. Things could certainly shift. Special education's always changing. But as we add positions, we'll have to look in other areas and do without.
Okay. Because going from 7 to 5 as far as maintenance in the schools,
Yep.
doesn't sound like a good idea to me. But
Yep.
Thanks.
Well, you're currently running at 6, right? Sorry, I just.
Correct. We'll go to 5.
Madam Chair. Also to point out, the other thing that I find very concerning is we're not going to have an HR department. I think that that's sort of glossed over but I don't think we can run without an HR department long term, so.
Madam Chair.
Good.
Move this towards myself a little bit. Saturday morning, the Finance Committee had the opportunity to sit down and go through sort of our wider look at the town side of the budget and invite a lot of the heads of the department in, ask them about their budgets. Towards the end of that marathon, as it were, we also had the opportunity to speak about, as a group, to prepare for this particular meeting, and have come to it's an open consensus where we'd like a little bit more information, but think that we are in general in favor of this plan being the utilizing the 600,000 out of, you know, if it's stabilization fund or free cash, whatever we ultimately decide. We did not discuss those specifics, but creating the enterprise fund for the MSW. One thing that we did discuss is we're actually going to have the opportunity, the 9 of us, to sit down with Jay tomorrow evening and go through this new reduction budget and ask him questions that we haven't had an opportunity to ask him yet as a group. So I will say that, sort of contingent upon how we feel about that conversation, I'll say personally, hearing him state that he is not happy but can survive is nothing's good, right? But gives us a little hope of moving into the next fiscal year. With exactly to Evan's point, being that we start now working towards what our next options are in the future, be it override, be it not override, but having more time to be thoughtful about moving forward into the future. And that's generally where we stand as a finance committee. And please, group, if I misrepresented anything, fill in any gaps for me.
Thank you for that, Victoria. I have a question. So tomorrow night is a public hearing again, right?
That's right.
So open to the public, with Jay speaking directly to the Finance Committee for anyone at home or here that would want to go and dive into these numbers in greater detail.
Absolutely encourage everyone to attend and learn and speak their minds. I will say in general that we tend to be very lonely during our public hearings, and I promise we ask good questions and we don't bite. So everyone's always encouraged to come and join the finance committee.
I always think it, just take it as we trust you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
That sounds like an awesome invitation, by the way. So, something that's been discussed here a few times, just for the folks paying attention here, thank you for coming in. We don't normally see this many people, so it's obviously very important to a lot of people. And if you haven't heard some of us discuss this in the past, in the very recent past, what we're talking about is the least of the worst options. It's really not that simple when you walk through this. And I do understand the concept of let's go for a big full override. And I also understand people saying, let's just not do that at all. And the reality is, it's like if you look at both sides of it, they make sense. And it's really hard to thread the needle of compromise, which I will say Evan and Dr. Cummings are trying to do, like in a very, very emphatic way. I've spent time with them and they're trying to do it. And I go through this with them. It's not easy. It's really difficult. And no one really wants to do this. But if you walk through it, the concept of it, of reductions, is something that no one ever wants to hear. And having been a victim of that in my career a few times, this really stinks, as most people have been there know. In the best way possible, it does sound, I have asked Dr. Cummings this, that these reductions, quote unquote reductions, are manageable for now. There is a concept, the discussion about funding level services. We absolutely want our schools to be funded adequately. We absolutely want them to be funded brilliantly. It's also been discussed, you can't squeeze blood from a stone either. It's just hard to ask somebody to pay potentially another $3,000 a year in property taxes. That could happen for some people. Or $500 a year, those living on fixed income. We have 20-something% people living on fixed income in this town. And probably more living sort of not so much paycheck to paycheck, but very carefully. So that all has to be taken into consideration. I'd say it's very fortunate that we've got this extra $200,000 of new funding. Very good timing for that. And these $600,000 of sort of quote unquote reductions seem somewhat reasonable. It does sound like, Dr. Cummings, you're agreeing to that. This is cool for now. Feels really good. Although, Victoria, agree, Evan, agree. We got to stay on this now, right? Like whatever we do, whatever happens going forward, if we move forward with this plan, and by the way, I support it. I do. If we move forward with this plan, I do agree that we need to have eyes and contributions on this budget together, working not only regularly, but collaboratively and cooperatively as a team to scrutinize, see if we can find new state funding. Who can we harangue for that? Try to find new growth and new areas of opportunity for new funding. Be really, really fiscally sort of conservative around budgeting and being cautious on budgeting and scrutinizing that together. So in 6 months from now, as representatives, we're all over this. So I just felt like I wanted to say that because I read every single email that comes in, and it's really interesting to see how people feel about it. And some people are saying, geez, what are you guys doing? I haven't seen anything. And that may be some folks in here now. That's what we're doing. That's what everybody here is doing. And this was called together to bring more scrutiny and, contribution and thinking to the process. Probably babbling a little too much. I apologize. Thank you for your time.
I just want to quickly ask, where did that 3,000 number come from?
Did I say 3,000?
Think it might be just
So
before
if you look at the override, for a potential 5-year override, and here's the
think
thing
it was-
about the override,
It was maybe just before you got here, Dan. It was
Dan,
just, tax
yeah, so
increases that
when you break out,
we can, Evan can quickly answer, I think.
Yeah, so no, thank you though. At a 5-year override, if we did the full $9 million amount, the high end of that scale, $1.5 million house is about $3,300 a year.
$1.5 million house.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
So he gave a range.
and
Yep.
down
we
to
gave
500.
we gave the
or
range, and the
600.
middle ground is about 1,300
Okay.
ish.
Yep.
That's for the $9 million override.
Correct.
And a $1.5 million house.
Correct.
Okay.
Is that included in the regular increase, or is that just override increase?
That's just over
So on top of that, we'd get our regular
2.5%.
Christmas gift of whatever we all get in the mail for our tax bill that time of year.
Madam Chair, Dan, fair point. I didn't mean to exaggerate. What I meant to say was that it could be a family whose parents were laid off and have a $1.5 million house. It could be a family who has to pay an extra $500 a year, and that's meaningful too. It could be $700 a year. It's noticeable for a lot of people. It is for me, and I think most people would feel the same way. So didn't mean to mislead or exaggerate. I meant to sort of cut to the chase. That's on the table. And the point of it all is that if you did go to town meeting with that, we could be risking a no vote. And now where are you? And that's really where I come back on this. For me, all right, we gotta roll our sleeves up and come up with some sort of middle ground, some sort of compromise that helps and supports everyone to the best of our ability. And I think these two gentlemen have done that.
Okay, so go ahead, Dan.
So I think one option is to try that. And if the voters don't want that and we do get that no vote, we could come back with another option. We could try this, which wouldn't even require an override vote on a ballot. I worry that going for this as the first thing we try, which includes cuts that it sounds to me will have an impact, just not an impact students will feel immediately. To me, that feels like we're not giving voters a choice. The people that I'm talking to in town want the schools to be funded for level services. I know we're all talking to different subsections of the town. I'm talking to probably more people who have younger kids in the schools because I have younger kids in the schools, so that might be a little bit skewed, but it's just, it worries me that if we make these cuts, that becomes the new level services forever. At the end of this, 5 years, we're going to come back, and if anybody wants to go back to what the level services were for FY25, it's going to be, whoa, you're trying to raise my taxes. So I just worry that if we do this, it's going to be permanent, and we're not going to get the, those maintenance positions back. We're not going to get that curriculum position back. It's, I just don't see this getting reversed in the future.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Anyone else? Go ahead.
So I know in the past 2 years, 2 times we've done an override. We've had a balanced budget at town meeting, which this gives us, and then we've had an additional allocation for the override. So it is certainly possible to do both of those things. One of the things I want to point out is that this balanced budget is kicking the can down the road for a second year. We kicked the can down the road last year to the tune of $1.2 million that we spent out of the school department revolving funds to balance the budget and prevent an override. This year, this budget is spending $600,000 of one-time funds and adding $600,000 in cuts to the school department to kick the can down the road another year, hoping that we'll be able to resolve this in the future. Now, I understand that time is getting short. We're coming up on a month until the regular town election ballots are printed and are sent out to people so they can start voting. So that doesn't give us a lot of time. Someone asked at the FinCom meeting on Saturday, do we have to do the override in May, or can we do it at a later election where we have more time to talk to the voters and let them know about it, and maybe even see what comes out of town meeting? The first override that we did was a special election near the end of June. We did not do it as part of the May ballot, which was right after town meeting. So we didn't do it until it had already been approved by town meeting. So that is something we can certainly put to the town, say, we've heard that people want level funding. They don't want to kick the can down the road. They don't want the cuts to the schools. So put it forward at town meeting and say, okay, we have good response at town meeting, and then go forward with an override for the full level services budget that we had originally proposed. That's something that I think we should definitely consider.
Madam Chair. I'll be really brief. Greg, thanks for saying that in such an articulate way. I agree with the concerns of kicking the can down the road. I would like to remove the quotes on reductions because these are not quote reductions. These are reductions. We're talking maintenance staff, classroom supplies, technology, HR programming. Those are not things that aren't going to impact students and their educational experience. And so I think it's important for us to all recognize that these are actual cuts. I suspect that some of the things that are included in those reductions we're going to want back. So that's a concern of mine. I don't know how much, and I don't know where the tolerance is and all of that, but I like the idea of exactly what Greg talked about, which is let's give the voters an option. I'd like to propose that we cut that from 5-year to 3-year. And the reason that I suggest that is because I do think we have some potential tailwinds that might come next year due to new growth. So that would be a smaller number. It would be a more digestible option. It would be something that I think the superintendent and the town administrator would have an easier time forecasting. It's difficult to go past a year or two. It really is, as far as budgeting goes. There's so many variables. So it would be a much tighter option. I'm reacting in part to the correspondence that we're getting. And overwhelmingly, it's, we want options. Let us decide. So it's hard to argue with the superintendent that these reductions are tolerable. But I want to provide some choice. So that's my recommendation, is that we use that approach with a slightly smaller, more shorter term override to provide that option for the parents in town who don't consider these reductions to be in quotes. You know, it's not. I think that's what I want to say.
Thanks, Matt.
Madam Chair? Thank you, Matt. That's a nice way of putting it. Something that I've been getting a lot of questions about. How will what's happening on the federal national level affect our district? The short answer is we don't know. The long answer is it's not going to be good. It's not going to look good. We don't know when. We don't know the timeline for cutting off some of this funding that we get. We do receive almost $1 million a year in entitlement grants. Massachusetts, I believe, will still require us, and it is the right thing to do, to provide the services that those grants fund. Without that $1 million, and I'm paraphrasing because I'm really not great with the numbers themselves, that's another challenge that we're going to have. And if it doesn't happen in the next fiscal year, it's going to happen soon. The state doesn't know how they're going to address it. They're talking about it. They don't know what to do. But we have very strong laws in terms of special education, and they're going to, I believe, maintain that status quo expectation. So we will be expected to provide services to the level that we're providing now. We have an excellent track record. We're sending so few students out of district. It's wonderful what we can do. But as we lose funding, we start to have to send more kids out of district. And that becomes more expensive because then we lose the school choice kids. And that's a revenue stream that will dry up. So that's kind of the situation we're in, is that there's a lot we don't know. And I think if we all work together, I think we can come to the right decision for Grafton. So thank you for putting this meeting together and having us all come in, because I think it's helpful.
Madam Chair. I just want to say, and I hate to disagree, but I wouldn't be on brand if I didn't. I'm not in favor of a 3-year override, mainly for the reason that our contract negotiations are every 3 years. And so when we go into contract negotiations not knowing what it is that we have, we just had contract negotiations, it's difficult, if not impossible, to perform such negotiations. And then if we did go to the town for, let's say, a 5-year override, we would have to go with, well, it clearly wouldn't be 1.5 million, as we've gotten the 200,000 from increased revenue on our side, and then to the 100,000 from them. And then, as Dr. Cummings stated, some of these positions are not staying regardless, right? Didn't you state that?
The halftime
Yeah.
preschool.
Right, and then the administrative shift for, I mean, there are some other savings, so we'd have to look at the number a little bit more closely at that point.
Okay, thank you. If I might, I don't know if you want to just, I was trying to wait till the end, but, a couple things, the notion of kicking the can, I understand that fully. And for me, I'm also cognizant of some, potential larger, changes that we can't foresee right now in the next year-ish. And so potentially in a year, we might be looking at, wow, it worked, and we are replenished with funds that they were found, or it could be the opposite where we are having to scale back dramatically. So that's a consideration for me in terms of doing it this year versus the notion of kicking it down. We all know that there's a problem, right? There's a deficit in the next number of years. But would it be more prudent to know all of that information or more of that information before we look at something like this? Additionally, we do have some potential growth that might hit within the next, year, by 27 maybe. And the whole notion of the Opportunities Act and whether that, even if it does go up, or will it impact us, we don't know. But that would also be coming in around that same time. I think that for me, it's important to demonstrate to people that voted for me for this position that I'm treating this as I do my business, my personal life, etc. I look at reducing expenses and increasing income, as opposed to, taking out a loan. And again, not that it's that simple, but it's the notion of asking Dr. Cummings and Evan to really look at those two things. How can we increase revenue, and how can we really tighten up expenses so that I can go out and say to folks that, yes, I'm for this. Here's why. Here's what we did. Here's what we tried to do. Actually, here's what these two gentlemen did, with the support of these boards, obviously. So for me, I like this plan. I appreciate that Jay feels comfortable. This is not my wheelhouse, education, and it is yours, obviously. So if you feel that this can be done without increasing class sizes and dramatically impacting our students, my kids were also Grafton students at one point, I am going to trust him in his expertise, and I also trust Evan in his ability to look at our budget, and I'm confident in how he has control over the budget, and that if we can find this 600,000 via bag fees or waste fees, etc., that would, again, short-term solution in some ways, but gets us to a point where we can meet like this maybe more regularly or on a smaller scale and really be ready for these things. I think we gave them a charge at the TRICOM meeting, and to now be kind of talking about other options, I don't know how realistic that is to be kind of throwing that out at this point, but thanks.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure who else. Yeah?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to start with a question for Jay. This fiscal year, 2025, do you anticipate any kind of additional leftover funds from this year that we can roll into next year?
I wish I could say yes. Because last year we spent that 1.2 million that we've been kind of saving up, if you will, knowing that fifth year post-COVID was going to be tight. This is the most nervous I've been about just landing this budget in my 14 years
Right.
here,
So
unfortunately.
not going to be, the piggy bank is going to be empty at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
So just a thought.
It's a
just
very good
we could
question.
roll some money
I-
over, then that would be great. So, so I probably come from a little bit different approach, which most of you may know. But I was here when we did the first override, and Jay was here, and we went through a bunch of years with dating it together, right, and getting through another year and another year, which was you know, looking back was a way to save taxpayer money. We would find the money, you would sit with Tim and negotiate a number, and we'd get through another year. And then it came to the point where we couldn't do that anymore, right? We had that meeting above the, in the atrium area of the loft there in the new high school, and we talked about it. We had the three committees in the room, and in that room, we were all kind of on board, or most of us, with the idea of, all right, maybe it's time for our first override. And back then, and as I am now, I think because of how I'm built and my business background and growing up in a family business and how hard that was, you know, I gave the school committee a hard time, and a lot of those people were my friends. And I was very hard on them, and to the point where they would go to the other members and they'd be like, what's the matter with Craig? And we'd say, there's nothing wrong with Craig. That's just who he is. And he represents, you know, we're all in favor of this, but he really represents the taxpayer. And most of the people outside of this room probably feel the way he does. So I fought hard for the schools. I've door knocked for schools. As you know, I'm a school guy, but this is money, and it could be any budget line item on there. It could be any department. It could be DPW. It could be fire. It could be whatever. When we're talking about these type of increases, we really got to take a hard look at it. And that's where I'm coming from. It doesn't matter where that line item is. We're talking about the biggest, you know, the department that uses probably 70% of the funds go to that one department. And that's how it is in every town, right?
In most towns, we're 59%.
I'm including health insurance, but maybe it's not 70.
All right,
I'm throwing out numbers. 59. Okay. So, again, I have enormous respect for the taxpayer, and I want to do everything I possibly can to represent them. This isn't just about parents. This is about the entire town. A lot of the people that I grew up with, their parents are still here. They're on fixed incomes. They're making, you know, they're living on Social Security at 25, 30 grand a year, and their taxes used to be $5,000 a year. Now it's 10,000. 10 years later, it's doubled. So I know those people. I feel for those people. They need a voice. And when we went to the first override, we had done everything possible to get through year after year after year, and it came to the point where we couldn't do it anymore, and I supported the override, okay, because I knew we were there, right? And I need to feel that way before I would go and ask the taxpayers for more money. I went to the first TRICOM committee meeting, and 3 minutes in, they're talking about an override. Before they've looked at anything, as far as I know, any numbers or anything, they're talking about, yeah, we're going to need an override. You know, we're talking about a $2.2 million increase in the school budget, and half the words used today are costs, are cuts, reductions in the budget, cuts to this, cuts to that. So when I think about, we're talking about cuts and reductions, and the school department is getting $2.2 million of additional funds, when we know we don't even have that in new money every year. So big picture, that's a problem, right? That's a problem for all of us. So how did we get to where we need they ask was $3 million in additional funds? We know we don't have anywhere near that.
Right.
So that's a problem. And sorry, I forget. Victoria's point, we need to start working on this right away, because we have we have next year, right? And we have to do everything we possibly can to avoid asking the taxpayers for more money. They've dug in their pocket twice already, deep, right? They dig every year, but they've dug deeper twice. And this is the first year without an override, and here we are back at the well, right?
It certainly wasn't a surprise for me. We said 5 years ago that we'd be back at the well in 5 years, and we did that.
I just don't see that as sustainable. You know,
oh no, we're override dependent. Oh no, but you can't have it both ways. No, we are. The level of services that we provide with our schools is far superior to many of the districts in the area that we're 11th lowest out of 319 districts. Like, any way I illustrate that, and over the last 15 years I've illustrated it a million different ways. If in any category, when that's not a good thing, you never want to be 11th lowest out of 319, other than maybe like weight or something. You just don't. And somehow we're providing a really good product. I'd love to put more money into it, believe it or not, make it even better. But to think that we're going to reduce, left to its own devices, we'd go down by 2.5 million in 2 years. We will be worse than any area dysfunctional district. There is 0% chance.
So we've had
otherwise.
2 overrides over the last 10 years.
Yep.
We've got additional funds, right?
Yeah, right.
And I'm assuming a lot of other towns haven't passed overrides. And how can, so we're still at the bottom?
We're 11th. Yeah.
That because it's the state?
Funding, yeah.
Yeah, we get
All right.
almost nothing.
So because of that though, we're going to the people of the town, asking them for more money.
Right.
Right?
What does
So
the
that's
town?
a problem.
I'm with you,
know what I
but you
mean?
can't have it both ways. You can't have high quality school district with people who are paid. I wish we could pay them more, believe it or not. And good high quality staff and do the good class sizes, everything that we do right now that people I think largely take for granted. Many do. You can't have that and not pay.
But you're spending money we don't have. That's what's going on here.
Right, but that's what. You signed the police contract last spring. We didn't have that money either.
We don't have.
We don't have squad.
350
I got
teachers
it.
to the tune of $1.6 million.
I got it.
Increase.
We don't have the money
we
for
can't-
anything.
We can't do that.
So we got to decide as a town what we want from
We
the
should
money
have done
we
that
do
before
have.
we did the contract.
Point of order,
But we
Madam
don't
Chair.
have that.
Okay.
We're only
Stop.
going
All
to
right, so hang on.
negotiate on
Thank you.
an
So, excuse
override
me.
year.
All right.
You didn't do it.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt. So thank you, Craig and Andy.
You cut me off?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Well, I'm trying to go. We have 10 minutes.
Okay.
15, 14.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with a lot of what was just said. This is not 10 years ago, and things have changed greatly over the course of a decade. We are sitting here listening to what inflationary drivers are doing to our budget. That is the problem. It is unfair to lay this at the feet of the school committee, at the feet of anybody at this point. We just established that if you want to lay it at somebody's feet, lay it at the feet of the state. We should not be arguing in this room. We should be working to make an impact up the hill. That's the issue. It's unfair to say that we need to do something or that we haven't seen anything from the school department. They used 1.2 million in one-time funds last year to close their budget. We're using $600,000 in one-time funds this year to close our municipal budget. These are actions that we've taken. Okay, you're right. It's not fair to the residents that we continue to ask them of this, but I firmly believe, and I'm in the camp, that committee has done everything they can to avoid a situation like this. 10 years ago, the residents of Grafton decided they wanted to invest in Grafton's education. And to be fair, those 2 overrides were not exclusively school. There was operational funds that was used in there as well. But that was a decision that we made 10 years ago. So to go back on some of this stuff now erases a decade's worth of investment that we've made. You know, that said, I'm also with Matt in that I'd like to see both a 1-year and a 3-year option, because I really, seeing the no reduction number for a 5-year override is a very difficult number to swallow. And I'll tell you right now, I'm pricing myself out of Grafton and when I continue to support overrides like this. I'm one of those people. I have great concerns, but I see the need for what we have in our schools, and I'd rather fight up the hill than amongst the rest of the people in this room.
So, and yeah,
That's very true. It's a point that I had tried to make at several of our meetings, is if you go back, people don't like Proposition 2.5. It's a great thing. It's a set of guardrails that says if you want to go up more than this amount of money, you shall consult the town. That's all it does. And if they vote to support it, that's fine. If they say no, well, then we got to figure out how to spend what we can spend. One of the things that's happened is, if you look at the guaranteed minimum that Chapter 70 gives you, and what we actually get, we're not getting any more money today than we did when Proposition 2.5 was passed in 1980, if you adjust it for inflation. It's destroyed it, and the state's taking and passing additional mandates on us and not funding any of it. They, make a big deal out of saying, oh, we guarantee you $30. Last year you got 104. Aren't we great? that really...
I know, Skip, and it's terrible, but we know that. It's terrible. It's not fair, but we know that, right?
We know that.
Okay.
The thing that we have, though, is we have gone to town meeting, Craig, and I think that you will remember this, and I've been involved in this probably since like 1980. We didn't used to have preschool. We didn't used to have kindergarten. We made a value judgment to add that stuff at town meeting. We support the schools for that stuff. If we get to a point where we lose federal aid, the state's not gonna continue to give us any kind of support, stuff like that will have to go. We can't continue to offer non-required stuff.
It is
Madam
actually
Chair,
required.
yeah, we actually-
Yeah,
So-
well, it's, but
Okay.
I'm just saying is that was added over time
Times have changed.
and it was supported.
Okay, so if I might, I know there's some other hands up, and we do have a potential overflow meeting for Thursday if we need. But if we could just bring it back to what Evan and Jay showed us this evening, and Victoria, I appreciate your thoughts directly relative to that. And if there's any remaining thoughts in terms of favorable or not, if we can kind of zero it back to that at this point for our last few minutes.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I do just want to clarify a couple of points to
bring it all the way
that,
down.
given the conversation.
Bring it all, yeah, thanks.
Apologies. To clarify some of the points that I made, given the conversation that we've just had, just so it's crystal clear. Number one, the Finance Committee absolutely still does need to speak with Jay tomorrow evening to have a full understanding of what these cuts entail. And number two, although, and even if we move forward with the full support of the sort of quote, kick the can down the road approach, doing whatever we can in the future absolutely could include an override, right? This is not saying
100%.
no override, right? This is all options on the table, and it's more of a function of time. And to Craig's point, maybe that means that we would advocate for a special town meeting.
Can I ask Jay and Evan, the kicking the can down the road approach seems to save us $4 million. Can you explain, there's the difference between the 9 and the 5. So can we explain, is that a real?
Sure, if that, it's a combination of the 200,000
Yep.
in terms of revenue generation and the reduction of 600, that's 800,000
So over
over
time.
5 years,
Yep.
as long as you're not bringing that stuff back, or if you bring something back, you take something off the board.
So,
It adds up. I mean, it's 4 million.
but it's for sure not bringing us back to the hole before the.
Correct.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And is there opportunity for additional revenue from the medically fragile? I mean, do we think
Sure.
200
Yep.
stops? Or
No,
is that middle
there's
of the road?
probably another 150 possibility. That's based on 4 students, and we're confident we'll have that for next year. I think the capacity would be 6 or 7.
Okay, thank you.
Rebecca?
I have a question, Evan, that maybe, I don't know if you have the data on it yet, but when it comes to changing the, our waste management program, is there going to be additional taxes for Graftonites on that? I mean, we're looking at taxes here or somewhere else? I just want to kind of know how to balance those.
So, in essential, yes, we're gonna find $600,000.
For the record, I hate the trash bag, so I'm all for it, but.
Well, no, you'll still have the trash bags.
Oh,
It's costing more.
Be better, Rebecca.
Well, maybe not.
Oops.
Yeah, sorry.
You only take
Sorry, sorry.
so much bad news at one time.
Continue on. I'm out now.
Yeah.
That's what the state.
So, I'm sorry, I got distracted by trash bags, but essentially, yeah, $600,000 is being made up some way or another. So whether that's via an override or via municipal solid waste enterprise fund, it's $600,000.
We're still paying for it, so.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Jay, not Jay, Evan, one question on the bag thing. So you said we'd have to make a commitment for 2027 budget
Correct. Yep, because
to basically increase the bag price to cover the
or
transportation
switch to a different program, right? So whether that's toters and overflow bags or a different municipal solid waste model, we would have to do something to make that budget gap whole.
and we have to make that decision this year?
You'd have to make it with enough time for us to implement it for fiscal 27.
Okay.
Yep. So, it depends on what the outcome is. So if we're going to change the entire program, we probably need 6 months notice to start that process. If we're going to stay with bags and just increase fees, you need 90 days is what the contract says. So, yeah.
Madam Chair? I just want to make a correction to a number that was thrown out earlier. The school is not increasing their budget by $2.2 million this year. They are increasing their operating budget by 2.2 million because this year's budget includes 1.2 million of one-time funds that is not reflected in that. If you include that 1.2 million in the operating budget for this year is $46.2 million, meaning a increase of 47.2 next year is a $1 million increase. The second thing I wanted to talk about is someone asked that what happens if we pass an override this year and all of a sudden we have all this extra money next year? Well, we have excess levy capacity. We don't have to use it. So our last two overrides were projected for 5 years, and that's how long we made that levy capacity last. There was nothing in there that said we had to get up to that levy capacity. We got there because that's what our residents chose to spend at town meeting.
Sorry, can I just quickly, because I don't know if the giggle was meant for me or not, because I'm the one who said that either we could be, okay. There's potentially changes nationally and then potentially in our state, right? And they could be looked one way or the other. So I was just showing both sides of how that could look. Okay.
Anne Marie,
Yep.
question. So I'm gonna ask Jay, so I guess I don't understand what Greg just says. To me, the budget's going up 2.2 million. He says it's going up 1.2 million.
1 million.
1 million, and then the 1.2, that's to replenish the fund that you used for last year? So that's not going towards operation for fiscal 26?
Well, you spent it.
Last year's budget was 45 million. This year's budget is 45 million from
that.
the regular operating budget and 1.2 million from stabilization, from revolving accounts.
So it looks like a 5% jump when in actuality it was 3%. Because
it was
that
really.
1.2 wasn't in the operating budget.
It was one-time.
It was one-time
Right.
funds above it. So the jump if you did make it a part of the operating budget last year, that jumps $1 million.
So you're replenishing that money?
FY25 plus FY26.
We're restoring it to the operating budget. We're not replenishing the revolving funds.
Yeah, I wish we were.
That's
Okay.
a whole other problem.
Anyone real quick, Heather or Mark, anything else from you guys at home? I'm not sure if anyone had hands up. I assume, William, you were looking. Okay, good. Okay, quickly.
Just real quick, Henry.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I am in support of what Dr. Cummings and Evan are presenting tonight, the hybrid kind of kick the can down the road method. I mean, they've been looking at this for months, and if they feel comfortable with this, then I personally feel comfortable with it as well.
Okay, thanks, Christy. Angelina?
So I know that you started talking about this right when I walked in, but looking at the proposed budget and the increases, unclassifieds went up 13%, 1.4 million. That is most of the 1.6. And I know we would expect that line to go up somewhat, but it is going up way more than the rest of the budget is going up. So I think when you consider the one-time funds used in 2025 for the schools, the actual school increase isn't nearly what it looks like it is. And really, the item that is the problem is the unclassified, which is a problem for the entire town. So I think this whole school town thing is gotta stop. Like, I don't think that that's where we need to focus our energy. And I don't think that I don't think the school is the problem or the town. I think we have costs that we can't control that are causing us to have to ask for more money.
And, I mean, in that unclassified is health insurance.
Yep.
And that's 59%
Pension.
or thereabouts relative to, school personnel. And so that's just a nut that's there.
Right.
Yeah. And again, it could be something that, again, we're looking at. Is there some other option out there relative to health insurance? How does that look? One doesn't know, and we're not going to know in the next 2 months. But,
Anne Marie, there's a hand up in the back if you wanna.
well, I don't think I'm able to, yep, Matt.
Can I just get 1 minute?
Yeah, and then we're not gonna be able to take public comment. I would encourage you either to go tomorrow to the finance committee meeting, or we'll have public comment, this evening at the end of our meeting. And if you're not here, that's fine. You can go home and do it via Zoom because it's the end of the meeting. So feel free to do public comment during our select board meeting. Oh, sorry, Matt?
Yeah, so just responding to some of the discussion, I think that we owe the voters choice, and I would like to see, since they've prepared it already, I'd like to see that option presented to the voters for 1 year. If you guys aren't comfortable doing a 3 year, if that's not the right thing, we have something in the that's been prepared already. We can just move forward with that, I think, and look at what's happening for next year. But again, in that scenario, we have to move forward with that discussion about the fact that we're just going to be coming back with another override next year. That's the reality of it. So, but that at least brings us to level service, which is what I support for this year. I don't think that these are trivial or meaningless reductions. I think they're real reductions that are going to be difficult to get back, and I just don't support that. So that's what I'd say.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a public hearing at 7, so we do have to be done. Look forward to the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow, and it looks like we'll come back to reconvene on Thursday and see if we can whittle this down more. With that, I'm going to adjourn this current select board meeting.
It's gonna change. Bye,
Mr. Alton?
Jefferson,
I could not read this thing over here.
Fully aye.
Seeing as how there's no further business that can come before the
Set
school
the wrong
committee at this time, I
angle for
declare the
me.
meeting adjourned.
The Finance Committee adjourns at 7 o'clock.
Thanks. March 18th, 2025, Select Board meeting to order. If everyone wants to rise and remove their hats for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a couple of announcements for this evening. The Tufts Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine's pet vaccine clinic has been scheduled for April 12th, 2025, from 9 a.m. to noon. The clinic is open to Grafton residents only, and an appointment is required. Appointments can be made by contacting the Board of Health. And I believe that is held here at the Municipal Center. At least that's where it has been previously. The Great American Rain Barrel is returning to Grafton. Similar to last year, residents will be able to order rain barrels directly through the company before April 27th and pick them up at the DPW barn located at 64 Old Westboro Road on May the 10th. Rain barrels are currently available for purchase by residents at the discounted price of $50 using the coupon code GRAF25. To order your rain barrel, visit greatamericanrainbarrel.com/community. And that will be helpful because we will still be functioning under a water ban, so you can collect rainwater. And we will move into the public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
in accordance with the provision of Chapter 82, Section 22 of Mass General Law, the Select Board intend to decree, lay out, and make public the roadways in High Point Estates subdivision, Grafton, Massachusetts, known as High Point Drive and Pepperbush Court. The Select Board intends to lay out the above referenced roadways at their meeting on March 18th, 2025 in Conference Room A of the Grafton Memorial Municipal Center located at 30 Providence Road and via Zoom starting at 7 o'clock. The Zoom link will be posted on the March 18th, 2025 Select Board agenda. Anyone wishing to attend may do so in person and provide public comment.
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Do we have anyone here to speak to this, or is there any? There was information in our packet, obviously, for
Tim's here.
everyone. Oh. Hi.
Tim Barlow, part of the development team for High Point. We were under the impression that the Mylars were going to get signed tonight.
Yeah, I don't think that we can do that until after town meeting.
Right, so even if the board votes to sign the Mylars, they get held with the clerk's office until after town meeting. You can't take the Mylars and record them.
Understood. Yeah.
So we
thought we needed to take the Mylars to the town meeting.
Nope, sorry for the confusion there.
Okay.
You do not.
Okay.
But so the board would vote essentially to move this to the town meeting vote.
Yeah.
They could sign the Mylars or they can wait till after town meeting, but you can't, we can't release the Mylars till after that.
Okay. All right. Our attorney's on Zoom, Don Bornstein, and if he has any comments. No.
You're muted.
He's muted, hang on.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Maybe not.
All right. All right, good. So I think you can hear me now. My comments are going to be brief. We're back to you again. You've had this item before. This is sort of our last step on the path to town meeting for public acceptance of the roadways. You have a report from the planning board supporting the acceptance of the roadways. And also up for acceptance will be the open space and the easements associated with the subdivision. This is a long completed subdivision done pursuant to 40B, but the process for road acceptance is like any other subdivision. So I think our path is pretty much at an end. We're asking for the board's support and to send us on to town meeting.
Any questions from the board? And Evan, as far everything is in order per planning and per you guys have vetted this?
Correct, yep. We met with Fiona earlier today to just verify.
Okay. Then I will, no further discussion, I'll accept a motion to move forward.
Well,
Or no, close the
First
public
motion
hearing.
is I move the board to vote to close the public hearing, Madam Chair.
Do we
wait,
want to take public comment?
Oh,
first?
hold on.
Yeah, we haven't done.
Yes,
public
I'm
comment.
Sorry.
My fault. Please come on up.
Come on up.
And we got rid of the podium, so you can just have a seat at a microphone, please. And if you could just state your name and your address. And,
David Savage, 4 Pepperbush Court.
and pull the microphone close to you. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, David Savage, 4 Pepperbush Court. Just a couple of quick questions regarding the process here, but I heard the attorney indicate something about accepting the open spaces. Is that actually part of this process here?
They're separate processes that run parallel,
Okay.
essentially.
The reason why I ask is that there's still a building in the front of the development that's in disarray and despair in the front entrance, that once you take over this space, what's gonna happen to that building, right, which is a hazard for anybody who might be, running through the woods there or whatever. And then there's still a matter of, I think there are 3 building units in the development that have not been developed as well, and I'm just kind of wondering what happens with that space if everything gets accepted and and don't get me wrong, I want the roads to get accepted as much as anybody else. Just want to make sure that I understand what the ramifications of this process are.
Relative to the 3 building lots, I believe if we're talking about the same thing, they were awarded to the Affordable Housing Trust. And so they have control over them now in terms of whether that means at some point they'll try to develop those or what will happen with that. But what is the building in the front? Is it like a out?
There's a it's like it looks like an old barn. I think Mr. Barlow knows what I'm talking
Okay.
about. It's collapsed on itself, but as you're going down Adams Road and you look at the development, it's on the left-hand side of the entrance, and it's just dilapidated.
Is there any plan for that?
Yeah. No, I would say what I guess maybe a question for Mr. Hingarani, but is there any funds that can be put in escrow, or do you want to take responsibility for taking it down? I know there's a brook that's close by, which could probably why it hasn't been taken down yet. So because it's probably a sensitive area, but what were your thoughts on that?
The barn straddles a stream, and I don't know, we thought it was like an old blacksmith shop from like the early 1900s. And when we first started the development, we had aspirations to restore the barn, but the order of conditions and the NOI that was required to do it was so extensive that we abandoned the idea. And then we wanted to demolish, and it was the same problem. We had
The order of conditions are just.
we didn't pursue it fully through the process, but yes, it was going to be extensive.
Is it a safety hazard out there? Did you say?
I don't know. It's collapsed. It's rotting.
Yeah.
And so who owns it?
Right now, there are, I think, 3 separate parcels of the open space.
Oh, and it's on one of the.
It's
parcels.
on one of the parcels of the open space.
Any recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the road acceptance goes, I think that's pretty straightforward. As far as the barn in the brook, I don't know that, the taxpayers of Grafton wanna take responsibility for that removal and cleanup.
No, so either try and get some money in escrow to take care of it ourselves, or just let it continue to age, right? But I don't know if that's safe.
Right.
And then it still is our problem at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And as it continues to age, I mean,
Yeah.
it very well may just fall into the water, so,
Right.
which isn't the right thing.
No.
Ultimately.
No, because it could flood the area. Right?
Andy?
Evan, do we have any, we had a bond on this, right, with, that we were holding for, sewer upgrades? Is there any additional funding left in that? Is that an option?
You wouldn't be able to take it for this purpose.
Okay.
Right, you'd have to come to some kind of side agreement.
And so just to clarify, so we're looking at the road acceptance here, and then the open space acceptance is something separate?
Yeah, do you have a motion for open space acceptance? No, we just have the road.
It's just
acceptance on
accepting the subdivision, the road
Right.
as
That's all we
presented.
have tonight.
Okay. So we'll come back to this.
You could accept two of the parcels of the open space and not the third. The one that the barn's sitting on.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
it sounds
then
like,
leave that our responsibility. If we could streamline the process and it was easy, we would go in and clean it up.
Yeah.
okay, so either way, it sounds like thank you for bringing it up, first of all, and that we currently have, and then just to clarify what I said relative to the affordable, those 3 lots. Is
Correct.
Correct. Any other questions? Or?
No, like I said, happy for you to move forward, but just wanted to call those out, so thank you very much.
What would you need to take that down? Like, can it be done by hand, or are you gonna need a load of backhoe or an excavator?
It'd be easier with a machine.
Can you get at it?
Yeah, we can get at it. Yeah, it's right there. If we could
If you could get some cooperation from conservation?
Yes, yes, it would be fairly simple to clean it up. But that's really the sticking point.
All right, maybe it's worth having
Yep.
going in and meeting with them and seeing if there's a resolution that's not too invasive on the stream, but it gets you access to be able to take it down inexpensively.
Yes.
Okay, so any more public comment relative to the road acceptance? Thank you, by the way. And anyone via Zoom? Okay.
No hands on Zoom.
All right, Mark.
All right, Madam Chair, I move the board vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
And then we have a motion for consideration.
Okay, Madam Chair. In accordance with Chapter 82, Section 21 of the Massachusetts General Law, I move the board vote to approve and submit to the Planning Board the High Point Estates subdivision road layout as presented this evening. In the event that the Planning Board recommends the road acceptance, I move the board vote to sign the Mylars.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0 to move along the acceptance of the road. Okay, sorry, making notes as I'm talking here. Moving along to appointments for select board, we have 3 people that are interested in the Board of Health. We have 1 vacancy on that board. So we're looking to see if Megan is here in person. Okay, great, Megan. And Ricardo, let me just, okay, you don't have to come up yet, that's fine. And Andrew, are you, okay, great. So yeah, basically if you want to just, we all read the information that you submitted, so thank you so much for that. And just let us know a little bit more about you and why you're interested, and then we'll go from there.
Great. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Thank you.
I'm Megan Doherty. I'm a pediatric cardiologist. I work at UMass, and My family's been here in Grafton since the earlier part of the pandemic when we moved in April of 2020, and we've really enjoyed being here in Grafton. One of my roommates actually grew up here, which is part of the reason we picked this town. And I have 3 children, 2 in the public school system, 1 will be entering kindergarten in the fall. And since coming here, we've really enjoyed the community, and I really want to be a bigger part of it. And I think with all of the things that have occurred over the last few years, particularly with the pandemic, that my interest in becoming more involved officially has increased, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to collaborate with other people on the board and kind of use my skills and expertise in sort of understanding medical data and being able to sort of interpret that and explain it to people so that people can understand what it means and understand what that means for them and how to make decisions for themselves. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity, and I appreciate you inviting me here to speak tonight.
That's great. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open up to the board for any questions. If you want to just stay up and if anyone has questions for you.
Are you a cardiologist now, or?
Yeah, I'm a pediatric cardiologist. I'm one of 4 full-time pediatric cardiologists at UMass.
It's amazing. Yeah, tip of the cap. It's hard to do. It's amazing. Work
Thank
that
you.
do.
My
It's just a
call
compliment,
night is on
actually.
Wednesday, so I think it'll work
Yep.
work well.
There's some time required, so I guess I asked that for 2 reasons. One, to just compliment you for doing the work, and also 2, because the time commitment is always more than you think.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Anyone else on the board?
No, thanks for stepping forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for stepping forward. And I mean, we have 3 people for 1 vacancy. We really appreciate everybody's interest, and no matter what happens, just look online and see what else, other openings there might be as well. But thanks, Megan.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Ricardo, come on up. Thank you.
What I was gonna say is, I was thinking about the position of the Board
Sorry,
of Health.
sit down first because it's on.
I'm Rich Rivera, pleasure to meet you. But I was thinking of the 2 positions, the Board of Health and the Council on Aging.
Mhm.
But because there are 3 applicants, I could just do the Council on Aging and be perfectly okay with that.
Okay.
So then we'd only have 2 applicants.
And is that the one that meets during the day?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're aware of that? Yep.
I am. Thursdays at 1, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, 1 Thursday a month.
Right. That's right, every 3.
Okay.
you wanna just-
And so well, you can just, while you're here, you can similarly just talk to us a little bit about, why you're interested and.
Okay, well, Rich Rivera. I'm also a physician. My interest has always been in advocating for the elderly. I practice chronic pain medicine, and so I have a active participation or interest in helping them out a lot in their chronic pain. And before I went to med school, I was I'm trying to blank. Anyhow, but so I just have an interest in doing that. So.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board?
No, just thanks for your interest.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And also actually for the flexibility with, which,
Absolutely.
That helps this board definitely. It's already hard to make decisions when you have multiple applicants.
Right, exactly. I figured.
Thanks for helping us out.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Andrew.
My name is Andrew Chalupka, and thank you for the opportunity to tell you, more about my interest in the position. When I first expressed interest in the vacancy, I was just wanting to make sure that the board was served well by, someone who was interested and dedicated. But after hearing from Dr. Doherty and Dr. Rivera, I feel like no matter who you pick, the town will be in good hands. But as I mentioned in my written statement, I was raised in Grafton. I attended intermediate school in this very building, a floor above where we are now. And I moved away for college and for medical school, but I returned to Grafton when it was time to raise my own children. I graduated from Yale University with a degree in political science. Following college, I carried out a year-long public health fellowship at Harvard, and that was followed by my MD from Harvard Medical School and my MBA from Harvard Business School. When I was in business school, my coursework included disaster management with a focus on public health. And then I trained as an anesthesiologist at Mass General, served on the faculty of Harvard Medical School for 2 years, and then went on to practice at the Mayo Clinic. In 2022, when our youngest child was on the way, my wife and I made the decision to return to Grafton. We wanted to raise our family in this town because of the kind of community and the kind of people who I remembered being here and who still are here. I accepted a position as the Associate Chief of Anesthesia at UMass Memorial, and we moved back to Grafton. My current role is as Medical Director and Global Safety Officer for Sanofi, which is a multinational biotech company which is based in Cambridge, but I work remotely from Grafton 90% of the time. So, like Dr. Daugherty, attending the meetings shouldn't be an issue for me. Regardless of my job, whatever it's been, safeguarding people's health has been at the core of my efforts and is one of the reasons why I want to be on the Board of Health. Since moving back to Grafton, I've followed the activities of the Board of Health, and seeing the issues that face it, I hope that my background and expertise match the needs of the board and would be a useful resource for it. As an anesthesiologist, I have professional expertise in 2 areas that are particularly pertinent to the Board of Health's current efforts: opioid abuse and emergency medical services. I spent 5 years on the trauma services at Mass General and Mayo, so I have a particular interest in the town's ambulance services. In one recent Board of Health meeting, it was mentioned that 40% of ambulance calls in Grafton result in no patient transport, so I think this indicates an opportunity for intervention in areas like fall prevention, home safety assessments, Narcan use. And I would look forward to exploring the interest of the members of the Ambulance Committee, the Medical Reserve Corps, or the Fire Department in partnerships to develop and implement programs to train volunteers to address some of these issues. Civic engagement and public servicing to Grafton is a strong value in our family that was imparted to me growing up. My father served for 2 terms on the school committee, and my mother was actually Grafton's public health nurse for 10 years. They volunteered for many activities in the town and in the schools, and they still reside in Grafton. I serve as a room parent and on the Principal School Advisory Committee at South Grafton Elementary School, and I'm hoping to continue the tradition of service to the town that my parents instilled in me through this role on the Board of Health. So I hope that my combined medical background and business background would allow me to assist the board in making the most of limited resources, but still delivering effective services and to responding promptly to the needs and the concerns of the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I don't think you have enough education. I'm sorry. Thank you for applying. You're the spin image of your father. You talk like him. You look like him. I'm obviously a much younger version of him, but when you came up, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is his father, which is a good thing.
Take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, your dad's a great guy. So appreciate you stepping forward. No real questions. I mean, you obviously have a great background and checks a lot of boxes for what the Board of Health is about and their role and responsibility to the residents. So thank you for stepping forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will say to the 3 applicants, there probably are very few, if we had any questions, because you're all very qualified for this position, and we're very thankful that you stepped up. So we really appreciate it. I don't know if anyone would like to, any further comment, or does anyone like to make a motion?
I would.
Andy?
Yeah, to echo, it is always incredible when we get 3 very qualified people applying for the same position, and it never makes this decision easy. I hope that there's future opportunities. Whoever doesn't end up getting appointed tonight continues to apply. We would be lucky to have all 3 of you. My recommendation is going to be Mr. Chalupka at this point. I feel like the disaster management plays in well. I appreciate that he's taken the time to watch some of our Board of Health meetings and has a feel for where he thinks he can make an impact. I appreciate his preparedness tonight, so that's the way I'd be leaning.
So motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, just again, thank you. It's tough up here because we have so many, we have great applicants. So stay involved. you know, whoever doesn't get there, stay involved.
I would vote for him too, so it's okay.
Yep.
Okay, barring no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So again, thank you so much, and you will hear from the clerk, or you can reach out to the clerk to sort out paperwork. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking the wrong way. Put my glasses on. To get going, get sworn in and whatnot. And thank you, all three of you, really immensely. Okay, moving on to the Council of Aging, on Aging. Sorry, we also have one vacancy here, and we have 2 applicants. Is Joanne here? Okay, come on, Joanne. And Ricardo, if you want to still be considered for the Council of Aging, there is another applicant. It's up to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Would you like me to speak?
Yeah, you don't have to come up again necessarily, but yeah. Just make sure that the microphone is close to you. Thank you.
Of course.
Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Joanne Pacella. I've been in Grafton now for 5.5 years. And my background mainly is in the medical field. I was a CAT scan technologist at Mass General for many, many years. I enjoy working with people. And I frequent the senior center a lot, and I know the other people, of course, in the COA. And I'm really interested in being a part of that. It's just a good thing, I think, all the way around. I wasn't expecting to get up here like this, so I'm a little nervous. So
No worries.
Sorry.
No, we appreciate you coming, and yep, we're all peers.
Thank you for having me. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to know.
Okay. Any questions from any board members?
No, just thanks. Thank you for volunteering.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Andy, yep. Joanne, before you step down.
Before you leave.
Sorry.
No worries.
No, yeah. Are there any particular areas of interest with you, you know, in terms of the programs that the council runs? Anything that you know, think you'd be a benefit towards in particular?
Whatever the council runs, I'd like to be a part of. I was at the staff appreciation, you know, this last week. And Council of Aging was there, of course, and I was sitting there eating my pizza, thinking I'd rather be serving it rather than eating it. So whatever it is, I'd be more than happy to oblige.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any comments or other questions from the board? Barring none, I will accept a motion. Again, we have Ricardo Rivera as well as Joanne for this.
Madam Chair?
Matt?
Yeah, I think, you know, we've got 2 candidates that have clearly articulated their desire to work with the elder population, which is terrific. They both have, you know, different experience, but, you know, related to the medical field, which is really good, obviously, for that population. I think I'm going to recommend that we move forward with Joanne Pacella. I like that she's been to the senior center, has some familiarity with it, you know, goes in and knows some of the people, and also maybe a little bit less burden since she's retired as well. I think, you know, when I add up the sort of candidates here, she just makes just a tiny little bit more sense to me. So if it's all right, I will make a motion that we nominate Joanne Pacella to the Council on Aging.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, other than, Madam Chair, that's a really tough decision.
Yeah. Yep, agreed. And Ricardo, I really hope that, you know, look into for other things and keep coming back, because we don't often have multiple applicants, so we're very thankful for this evening. Okay, Barring any other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you both so much. And also, Joanne, you'll hear from the clerk, or you can reach out to the clerk to sort out getting sworn in and whatnot.
Thank you.
And don't feel that you have to stay. You can stay if you want, but you don't have to. Moving along to appointments, election workers.
Nope.
Yep.
It's cable advisory.
Oh, sorry. I don't really have the proper agenda. Cable advisory, sorry. So we have Megan Bertino.
Huh.
Hi.
Hi, come on up, Megan. Hi. So same thing, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're
Sure.
interested in this particular committee.
My name is Megan Bertino. I moved to Grafton a little under a year ago now, after relocating from moving down south for work, pandemic and all, you know, family. It was tough, but I am interested in getting involved in the Cable Advisory Commission. I work as a corporate counsel for a small fiber internet company based in the South, so not so concerned about conflict of interest. Also, I am a lawyer. I am not Grafton's lawyer. They pay counsel handsomely, I'm sure. But I have a lot of experience with franchises. That the company I work for requires franchises in the vast majority of towns that it enters into new service for. So I'm interested in taking my knowledge on the company side and applying it to the municipal side and flexing muscles that I don't normally get to flex, where like I spend my time catastrophizing. Like, what are all of the horrible things that could go wrong? How do we mitigate damage? And now it's, these companies have money, what can we do? Like, how do we protect our consumers? How do we protect our citizens? So, the Cable Advisory Commission seems like a fun thing to try.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions from the board? Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, again, great application. Super appreciative to have somebody well versed in the topics. You know, and I think having listened to some of the cable advisory meetings, you know, there's some concern over, you know, where do we continue to draw our funding from in the future? Should you know, those revenue streams go away? So, as somebody who's, you know, on the side of that, you seem well. Seem to be in a good position to, you know, help offer some guidance and information there. I also appreciated the comments you made at the school committee meeting the other night. So happy to see you here. No, it wasn't you. I'm sorry. Your twin was up and advocating.
I will accept the compliments on her behalf.
There you go. Anyone else? Yeah, Megan, I appreciate it. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, just appreciate your experience. Thanks for volunteering. We're gonna need we're gonna need some help there because it's kind of been revised or refreshed. This advisory committee has been refreshed a little bit in the recent weeks. So
Awesome. It looks like you guys just went through renewals a couple of years ago, so there's a little bit of runway before a lot of that legwork comes up. But now's the time to dig in and figure out where value adds can come into play.
Yeah, I appreciate your experience on both sides of the coin. It'll be great. And to Mark's point, you know, this is a committee that's revamping slightly, so great time to come in, especially with your expertise. So thank you so much. Any other comments?
Said it's a lively bunch there, so you'll be challenged.
It's gonna be.
So good luck with that part.
If you're picking up on his sarcasm.
I will
You might be.
entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the board vote to appoint Megan Bertino to the Cable Advisory Committee.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
all.
Megan. Great to meet you. And we have two folks up looking to become election workers, David DeGrand and again Megan Bertino. And yeah, I'll take a motion relative to that.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to appoint David DeGrand and Megan Bertino as election workers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Moving along to town administrator appointments.
Yep,
You're on.
that's me.
So looking for the board to please affirm the appointment of our treasurer collector's office clerk, Aaron Nadeau.
Okay, I will consider a motion.
There can be. Would you like one?
Yes.
Sure. All right. Then I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Aaron Nadeau as clerk in the treasurer collector's office.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, moving along to new business. We have a one-day beer and wine license for the North Grafton Parent Teacher Group at 37 Wheeler Road. Take a moment. Well, actually, do we have someone here that wants to speak to that?
Yep, I'm here.
Jocelyn, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. If you want to just tell us a little bit about the event and what you're looking for, that'd be great.
Yeah, we do like an annual spring fling, which is an adult only event. The past couple years we did it at Highfields, and this year we're moving to Community Harvest Barn. And obviously we need alcohol. That sounds terrible, but it's just something that would be nice. And we have a local band that is going to come and play. They're also they're in Grafton. They used to go to North Grafton Elementary School. So we're just looking to hopefully get a permit so we can raise some funds for both North Street and North Grafton Elementary School.
Great. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Any questions for Jocelyn? Okay, now I can take a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the board vote to approve a one-day beer and wine license for the North Grafton Parent Teacher Group on Friday, March 21, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve a one-day indoor music license for the North Grafton Parent Teacher Group on Friday, March 21, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best of luck at your event.
Thanks.
It's Friday, right?
It's this Friday, yeah. Okay, and next up we have just a general update from our chief, our fire chief, and thank you for hanging out, Eric.
No problem. It's good to see everybody stepping up for the open positions.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can we change this to a chief update instead of a general update?
General update from
Whatever you
fire
say,
chief.
Chief.
Yes. Whatever you want it to be called.
Just kidding.
This guy again.
I know, too often, right?
Yeah. Morning and night. Ugh.
Yeah. I have just a few quick bullet points of things that have happened over the last few months since I was last in, highlighting recruitment. We've continued to have great success with recruitment. The committee is currently working on updating our yard signs, get that, something new instead of being so people, it pops again kind of thing. And we also currently have 2 members just recently graduated from the Fire Academy. We have 1 member that's attending the Fire Academy currently, and we have 4 members that are scheduled to start in June. So that's going awesome. To tag on to that, one of the area chiefs does a study every few years to see, basically to watch the decline of call volunteerism across the fire service. And in Fire District 7, which is 27 communities, we're the only community that has increased call staff in the last 5 years, and we've gone up by 15%. Most other towns have dropped between 25 and 50% in that time.
Wow.
So we're pretty proud of that. And that's with everybody's effort, so it's great. Apparatus updates. We signed contracts for the new ladder truck that was approved last year, and also a new brush truck. Timeline for delivery on those is 4 and 2 years respectively. So a long ways out, but it'll get us up to that space where we need to be, where we have that equipment that we can rely on. Another thing that's going great for us is training. We were able to get a building from Tufts to use recently. The building didn't turn out to be as good as we had liked. They did a lot of abatement and removed everything that is exciting to firefighters, including windows, doors, and all kinds of stuff. So we were left with a bunch of concrete and stairwells. So we made the firefighters train on our new standpipe packs and carry hose and pull hose up stairwells for 2.5 days. So they were super thrilled.
You had invited the select board to participate, and I'm glad that that didn't work out.
Well, that's what when we went and toured the building after the abatement, and I said, I don't even want to be in here. I'm not going to invite anybody to get into that.
Thanks for sparing us.
We are, in regards to training, we are starting to take advantage of the regional training facility in Auburn. And we're able to do live fire training, and they have a bunch of props built into that building. So I'm hoping that once we get into that, we can get some of you there and in gear and, moving some hose and doing all that stuff and seeing what it's actually like. So be good. Maybe even you too, Evan. No?
Supervising.
Will's
Hard
coming.
pass. I'm in.
Will's
Hard
coming.
pass. I'm in. Hard pass.
And the final thing I have for training is, so far this fiscal year, the members have participated in over 3,773 hours of training, which is incredible for people that do this on weekends, evenings, and I'm just taken back every time when a training room that was built for 24 people when the station was built, we max it out every time and bring in chairs from other parts of the office to get everybody in. So it's definitely great. Fire prevention continues on. Captain Clean's doing a great job with all the new building that's going on in town and the stuff that's actually going in and the proposed buildings. It's daunting. Every time we turn around, there's a new set of plans coming into review, and the new buildings, Mike has to go into every one of those apartments in those buildings and inspect all the fixtures and everything. So it's quite the task, but we're keeping up. So as far as grants, the department has been awarded a just under $19,000 grant from the Department of Fire Services, which we're using to purchase new turnout gear. We've also applied for a second round through the Department of Fire Services for another $10,000. We're waiting to hear to see if that's been approved. And with the current federal stuff going on, we're not sure about our FEMA grants. We're waiting to hear on those. We have a regional grant out that if awarded, we'd be just over $500,000 for new air packs for us. And we also have a grant request for $75,000 to put new gear washer extractors and dryers in all 3 stations so we can keep the risk of cancer down for the firefighters. And that's right, there's another page. Last thing I wanted to report on is that working with State Representative Meridian, where the fire department is looking into getting into a contract with the Mass DOT to get reimbursed for our calls that we respond to for the Mass Pike. This is something other towns have been doing for a while, and we'd like to jump on board. And just to give you an idea how often we're out there, since July 1 of this fiscal year, we've been out there. I've got 40 times written, but I was out there last night, so 41 times we've responded out there for everything from fender benders to tractor trailer accidents and hazmat spills and stuff. So it'd be good to be able to at least recoup some of that. So that's my down and dirty report.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Nice and quick.
Anyone have anything for the general?
General. Congratulations. Bump.
So, Chief, I mean, I think it's great that the department is growing, and you really need to take a victory lap on that. Both you and your management team there, and the officers and yourself, because I was here when we had an outside committee. We had hired a consulting firm, and they did a study of all the the facilities, the apparatus, the trucks, and the station in general as far as operationally. And, you know, they wrote this huge report, which I'm sure you have a copy of. But one of the things that stuck with me was, and this company was from New York. I want to say they were from upstate New York that did this, and they deal with fire departments all over the country. And the on-call fire department culture, you know, the train that you guys were on, 25 to 50% decline in on-call firefighters. We were on that train. As you know, there was a lot of guys just retiring out, right? That whole generation was leaving. And I think the department then had gone from, like, I'm making up numbers, but 75 to 50 or 55 or something like that. We had lost a lot of experience and a lot of really good firefighters. So it's great that you're able to increase that number significantly. I hope it continues, and the culture that you're creating there is important. So keep those men and women safe. Training is huge. Sounds like you're doing that, which is important. You got to train them, you got to keep them safe, but then they have to be out working calls too. So it's not easy, I'm sure, juggling that. But thank
Madam
you.
Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I would like to echo Mr. Duff and his sentiments and go just a little further on the victory lap. And the reason I want to do that is because there are people that are watching and listening, and they might tune in at a later time, and they should know that their fire chief is doing a great job. And it isn't just the recruitment. That is that's kind of super meaningful, and that's a great victory lap to take. But I'd also say the administrative side of your work is a little bit complex and it's hard to do. Combine that with maybe a slight political component to your world. And then there's also, beyond the morale and the folks that are that volunteer and that work there, it's the responding to the stuff that we need you to do to keep us safe. All these calls. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but not only do you do all those things, you also go to those calls. And you don't always have to do that. I mean, I guess you lead by example and you're comfortable with that, and that's just how you roll. I personally really appreciate that very much. It's kind of how I've lived my life and my career, and I respect it very much because it's harder to do. So I think you should take more than one victory lap, and I think everybody should hear it and see it because you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Yep.
Thank you, Chief. I love that you're reaching out to DOT to see if we can start instituting some fees there. If you hear anything about that or get any updates, out of cycle before in between your visits here, love to catch those if you don't mind.
Yeah, just quickly. So love to hear the updates. Sounds like everything's going really well. Can you just take a second to think about, what are the things that need improvement? Where are your opportunities? Sort of on the other side of the successes that you've had, what are the things that need some work?
The things that need work is a lot of stuff that has to do with funding. We've talked for years after one of the other studies about third position to help with the management side. That would be and a training position, which would free me up from responding to some of those calls and be able to do more stuff and let us reach out more community-wise as for safety aspect. If we can get out and do business inspections and things of that nature that we right now we're keeping up inspection-wise, prevention-wise, but we need to eventually build up to where we're getting out ahead of things and be more involved in the community that way. So that's our big need. We continue to work with Evan and stuff, and we realize that budgets are tight, and you guys are here for an extra hour today to try to keep things the way they are, which we appreciate, and we're trying to do our part too. But that's one of our wants that's been consistent right along. I don't know as far as other needs, the people step up. So it's amazing even when we do have, we ask extra, somebody steps up. So, that's.
So my observation is people step up because of the culture, and that's a direct reflection on your leadership and your team's leadership, and I've heard nothing but good things, and the recruitment numbers show. I mean, those don't lie. People won't go and, you know, want anything to do with a, you know, fire department that isn't functional and positive and supportive, and, you know, where they get the training and the equipment and the good culture that that they want. So yeah, kudos to you. And thanks so much for your honesty around your needs. Yeah, we were talking about reductions and, you know, overrides and funding and all of that tonight.
Mhm.
So that's a really good sort of signal to the board and the town that you're doing okay, but there are some needs that are unmet at the moment, and it's not going to always be that way. So you know, at some point we're going to have to make some decisions. So thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. I agree, you know, good news on a lot of fronts, and so kudos to you and your department. And is there anything relative to what Representative Meridian's doing? Like, is that just, you'll just deal with it and?
It's actually, I've already been in contact. He basically set us up with the right people at DOT, so I've been in contact with them, and we're working out fee schedule and stuff like that. So
Oh,
it
great.
does look positive as far as what we'll be able to, we will be able to recoup some stuff.
Great.
So.
I mean, I've noticed that you guys are out there all the time, or a lot. Anyway, I shouldn't say all the time, but it seems like a lot.
Far too often.
Yeah, and I will say that, you know, I think I reached out to you individually, but the last several months, the number of calls, and I wasn't sure, is this, you know, a blip up or what, but just seems like there were a number of nights where you guys were going from one thing to another, this town, that town, and I
Yeah.
saw a couple of them, you know, in the evening, and they were foggy. They had just been up and working for a long time. So
Yeah.
in the cold, you know, very cold circumstance, I think one of those nights was super cold. So, you know, kudos to your department, to the men and women that are out there doing this, and certainly to you as their leader. So thank you.
Thank you.
I got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
We get updates, you know, pretty regularly from Evan about the rec, but how's your experience been going through those meetings so far, and anything you've gleaned or concerns?
Very good. It's been positive. I'm not sure if you have gave them an update already or whatever, but we
Not since this morning.
all right, so we went we've been focusing a lot on what type of software we're going to be using for the dispatch center. So that's been kind of a whirlwind. There's a lot of stuff out there available, and like anything else, there's like cars. Somebody likes Ford and somebody likes Chevy, and you know they both talk them up. But we're in the process of trying to figure out what's going to work best for us and to pick a model for that. And we're also in the process of looking for a director for the rec, and that's moving right along. So that'll be positive and hopefully take a little weight off of the two committees that are meeting and making decisions now. So, but it's all been very positive, and working with Westboro and Southboro, it's great collaboration. So, you know, we all seem to get along for now. But now it's going very well, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be, you know, become a system that will help us, you know, reduce response times and stuff. So that's my goal.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Eric. Anything else? Thank you so much for your time, Chief.
All right, thank you very much.
Chief.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Good night.
the general update.
No problem.
Okay, moving along to continuing discussion of upcoming fire chief eval. I think I was remote when we were discussing this. There might have been some tweaks to the assessment, was there?
saying they can't get back in Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
It's preparing meeting. They got kicked out and it's saying.
Okay, thank you.
There is a different Zoom link
Oh,
for
yeah.
this meeting
Okay.
than there was for the previous meeting.
Okay, I think they were in this one, but I'll make sure they know that.
Yeah, it's a different number altogether. Thank you. Let us know if there's still a problem.
Okay, thanks.
So the fire chief eval, were there any tweaks to that after we last talked about this?
Madam Chair?
Yep, go ahead.
So I think, you know, the basic flavor of the discussion that we had was that it is going to be somewhat difficult to judge some of these categories because of the operational day-to-day nature of those, and our lack of familiarity with how those things get carried out and whatnot. I'm going to make a recommendation that in the service of doing something that we just use this and do the best we can, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and look to basically iterate this over the coming year. Also, in addition to just using this form, that we use a similar approach to what we do with the TA, which is that we talk to some of the command staff. So that can be chosen and, sort of distributed by staff and through you to individual members. And we just basically use the same approach that we would with the TA so that we can just move forward with it. I think, I don't want to speak on your in place or whatever, Craig, but for me it would help to have evaluation and a process to sort of go into negotiations with.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree.
Yeah, so, knowing that it's our first shot at this and use this tool, some of the things might be NA or we're unable to comment. And then, yes, I already reached out. We'll get 5 names of, we can each reach out to somebody, whether it's the station, the community, what have you, and so you can get some impact or input from those folks as well. Maybe they can be a little bit more specific to some of these things that we're not sure on. Were you gonna say something, Evan?
Yeah, you touched on it. My recommendation, and strong chief over there. No, but my recommendation would be to note any places where you don't think you have the correct level of knowledge, because that either tells the board that you could be doing something different as far as operational management goes, or that's just not going to be an area that you're going to evaluate moving forward.
Okay, great. Yep, Andy?
Yeah, I'm okay with that approach for this year. There were a couple of things I noted, in particular under Section 3, Organizational Management, A and B, implements and enforces directives, follows organization policies and programs, and then all of the 4th section with emergency management, just because trying to be fair to the chief, I am confident that he does all these things and that he does them well, but the emergency management stuff seems to be related to how he operates in the field, which is just an area that we really don't have a lot of access to. Now, Evan, I think, does a good job of updating on that. The chief comes in quarterly and gives us those updates. So I guess my question to the board is just, do we feel that the info that we get from the 2 of them is enough data to rate on in those areas, or if it's something that we should, consider possibly removing? But again, if we just want to treat that individually and whoever applies in NA wherever they do is for this year, we could readdress.
Yeah, and maybe we can, again, target the 5 individuals that we choose from wherever, community, et cetera, that might be able to give us more information on those areas.
Sure.
So maybe that, in us looking at names, Evan, emergency management might be something that we want to zero in on, if there's someone out there that can help us with knowing more about what the chief does.
Anne Marie,
Yep.
just one thing.
Yep.
Evan, have you talked to the other board members about the idea that I brought to you about the scanners?
Not yet.
Okay. So while we're on the subject,
Yeah,
so I was actually
opportunity.
I was actually talking to one of the retired firefighters who was on the fire department probably for 40 years. Probably getting that wrong. It's probably 45. But and was talking to him about the difficulty in evaluating somebody that you don't work with all the time, and I asked him his thoughts on that. But he said, Craig, what might help you and help all the board is to have a scanner at home, so you can hear the calls, you can hear the dialogue if you happen to be listening, and see operationally how the calls get handled and Eric's role in that. And I thought that was a good idea for a bunch of reasons, not to be just listening for Eric, but to know what's going on, and hear the chatter, and Evan alerts us to the major stuff, but just to be able to hear fire and police. So I actually had a scanner at home that was a gift that I never was able to get programmed, so I brought it in. So and Cindy Ide or somebody was able to, Evan was able to.
I'm gonna take credit for that.
All right,
There it is.
Take a
There
big
it
clap
is.
Cindy
on
did
that.
none of this. This was
Everybody knew that.
So it's on my desk in my office, and I have it on, and it's been great. So I would recommend that. I think they're under $100, and Evan's got the checkbook out, so
And he'll
you guys-
program them, right?
At least he can
So,
program
just
it.
drop
And he can program
and
it.
he can program it free of charge. So I think it's a good. If you don't mind the background noise, I think it's a good thing to do and to have.
I agree with
Great.
that.
Thanks
That's
for that.
great.
So just shoot me an email if you'd like one, and we'll get one ordered up and
Yeah.
programmed
So
for you.
you can thank Rick Elaine for that suggestion. I thought it was a real good one.
There you go, Chief. You can thank Rick Elaine for that.
There it is.
We're all listening in. Okay, so we can move along from this. I think we've discussed that, you know, the tool might not be perfect. It's a place to start.
Yep.
We have two capable people to do it this year and then kind of guide us in terms of what things might be deleted or added. And then hopefully we can focus our outreach individually to who we are meeting with to kind of fill in some of those gaps. Okay, and moving on to considering town meeting warrant article for rodenticide use. I didn't see you back there, Shannon. All this time. Come on up, Shannon.
Hi again.
Hi.
Shannon Phelan, 159 Old Westboro Road. Thanks for having me back. I didn't anticipate having to come back, but we'll just make it real quick this time. So last time I was here, thank you so much for your support about the rodenticides on town property. This time, just wanted to clarify, for private property, what my request is to request that the select board direct the town administrator to draft a warrant article for home rule petition as it pertains to rodenticides on private property in the town.
Mm-hmm. Yep, thank you, Shannon. Any questions from the board? So essentially, go ahead.
No, it's just that, I mean, I'm not against it. I think it's a good thing, but how do we manage that? How do we, you know, I mean, there's just no way for us as a community. We can do it, but I don't see how we can control that.
You mean control rodenticides on private property? It would be mostly for, well, an average person legally cannot go out and purchase them. So the only way you could get these specific rodenticides is if you call a pest control licensed applicator. So it would be more on, you know, communicating and educating the applicators that they're no longer allowed to use these specific chemicals on Grafton property. Similar to the, it reminds me of the coal tar ban. So
Right.
something like that.
And yeah, so then what happens, I know with the coal tar, it's a bylaw, it did get passed, and then it's just a matter of how we push that out as a town to residents to know that, you know, we are banning that particular product, and then educating folks in alternate pesticide companies or, you know, mitigation companies to use. But I would say that there's probably no one in the town that's going out and checking when someone does their driveway. So,
Right.
Madam
yeah,
Chair.
go ahead.
So just as a course of experience, so we've been working with our pest control vendor since the change, and discovered some things we didn't know, and so we've made alterations to how we're approaching the issue. But they were very receptive to getting away from using the Escar products. They had a whole bunch of knowledge and insight in what they're doing in other places, and they also, I think, are very aware that, you know, if this becomes a statewide change or a town-wide change, that they'd have to implement it on that basis. So I think that whatever pest control company you're using, I'm only speaking from the one that we use, I think if we pushed out the information to all of those companies, that they would lead that charge. And of course, we don't have a way to enforce it, but they seem to be very receptive to the conversations that we had.
That's great.
So, Madam Chair, so how, what if somebody does do that? Like somebody going on their property and arresting the homeowner for?
No.
I mean, I'm not trying to be
No, no, no,
sarcastic.
yeah.
I'm just thinking, I don't do it, And I remember it was last time of the meeting before. I really support what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish for town property. But private property is kind of a different discussion. And where does that sort of the managing of it begin and end? And then, like, well, what do you do? Oh, I didn't know. Well, it's too bad. You're fined, or you're arrested, or geez, I got a really bad rat problem.
Right.
So how do you
Well, it wouldn't
reconcile
be on
that
the
private
homeowner.
property thing?
Yeah, sure. That's totally understandable. It wouldn't really be on the homeowner. It would be more on the pest control company. Because like I said, you and I, as homeowners, we can't just go out and buy these products. So it would be more education with the pest control companies that service this area, as Evan mentioned, like, hey, we can no longer use these types of chemicals. If they choose to advertise that and sell it to their customers, that's kind of on them. I mean, that's not really the homeowner's fault.
So I'm thinking though, those little pellets that you can get from Home Depot, that's poison.
Yeah, that's not the same. That's not, yeah. You'll still be able to buy those.
I don't want
yep.
that. It's not,
Yeah.
you have cats next
Yeah.
door and dogs all over the place.
No, the
I'm
types
not
of
doing
chemicals that we're talking about, those SCARs, the second generation anticoagulant rodenticides, you're not legally allowed to buy them in a store. If they were in a store, the store is selling them illegally. So it's regulated. They're not allowed to be sold to consumers because they are so dangerous.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And I think it might be important for the board to know that there is additionally, movement in the state of Massachusetts.
There is,
in this direction. So similar to when I was talking about plastic bag reduction, it was part of a larger movement to really do that as a state. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are many other towns that have, if they haven't already voted on it at town meeting, they're in the process of doing that this year. So I don't know the exact number. I mean, I would say at least a dozen, maybe 20, that are in progress. And Senator Michael Moore and David Meridian are both co-sponsors of the bills at the state level. So they are definitely on board with this movement as well. And this home rule petition, this doesn't make a bylaw that would regulate anything right now. All it is putting it in the hands of the voters at town meeting to say, hey, we do want to get this home rule petition or we don't. So.
Any other, yep, go ahead, Andy.
My only concern is from an administrative standpoint, how heavy a lift is it going to be preparing for this for town meeting in light of everything else that we have to prepare for town meeting?
We have it already.
Okay.
So we're not reinventing the wheel, to be clear. We're taking this information from a different community or several communities and graftonizing it and then sticking it on the warrant. So I have no concern about that workload, and Will's gonna do it anyway, so.
Yep.
I feel great about it.
So the penalty would be, if there's a penalty or anything, that would be with the pesticide companies?
We could work that out. It wouldn't be something that we have to worry about for probably another year at least. So we have time to work that out and collaborate with other communities, see how they're doing it. It's usually through the Board of Health. Like if the pest company wanted to use the SCARs in the case of an extreme infestation, they would just need to notify the Board of Health. That's usually how it would work, like at a private residence. But yeah, I mean, at this point, we don't need to get too in the weeds. I mean, it's good to think ahead, but we don't need to get too in the weeds of like how exactly it would be, fines and enforcement. It's just, do we want to in the future regulate this at the town level?
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Just quickly, I'm in support of this, hearing everything that I've heard tonight. So I think the more towns that petition for home rule, the more likely that some action will be taken at the state level. And I think I view that as a positive step for the whole initiative. So it's not something that homeowners can buy anyways, and it sounds like the town has some good experience with just working with companies that do that. And if there's a process for if they are really, really needed, they can petition the board. I mean, we've got the exception process. We have some good experience with actually working within these guidelines, and we've got some state representatives that seem to be in support. So I think we should just move forward with asking Evan to draft the warrant article.
Okay, do I need a motion for that, or? Yep.
Please.
Any other discussion?
So I'll move that we direct the town administrator to draft a warrant article in favor of petitioning the state for home rule with regards to the SCAR pesticides.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes, sorry, 5-0.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Shannon, for coming
Thank you
out.
so much.
Okay, moving along, next up, we have the amendment number 2 to the purchase and sale agreement for 1727 Upton Street. And do we have anyone here? Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Brien, representing Brendan Properties.
Hi. Thanks for your patience.
Just adjust the mic down.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and so, do you wanna just kind of chat about what we're looking at here?
You want me to?
Sure.
Okay, so, as the board is aware, the purchase and sale, amendment number 1, expires on April 1st, 2025. There is language in the extension that the board had already granted, that says that they may request an extension of the entitlement period for one additional period of 12 months by mutual agreement of the parties prior to the expiration of the entitlement period. So in speaking with council, what that means is that entitlement period that is designed to allow the applicant to obtain all the permits and approvals, that is what you would be extending. So I can speak to some of the permits and approvals. So we do have an issued building permit, and all the planning and conservation permits have been granted at the town level. I do not have information on what other permits needed to be acquired. So I think the representative may have information on that. I don't know. That's not what I've been tracking.
Okay.
So we have been issued a foundation permit for the building. We still do have a curb cut permit that we're currently working with the state. Ty and Bond submitted updated paperwork last week back to the state for the third curb cut. That's currently the only outstanding permit that we.
Just the curb cut?
Yes.
Okay, that's with like DOT?
Yes.
Okay, and so the other thing, well, I'm jumping in, but, relative to, I don't know if it's a federal issue, it was relative, not conservation, but some sort of an issue on the land that needed to go somewhere, I don't know, the verbiage and nothing
Yeah, so
else?
there is like a RAM, so we do have a like remediation that'll be done on site,
Yeah.
like part of the demolition. There's some remediation work. So we are working with the state on that, but that's part of what's already been issued to the property.
And has the building permit fees been paid?
Not till closing.
Okay.
Right, so the way that it was discussed, with our council is that, we would move towards closing, the permit has been issued, and, all of the requirements have been met, and then at the time of closing, we would collect that fee along with our sales, fee as well.
Okay, so the request for more time is just specifically for this curb cut with DOT, nothing else? Okay.
Do you have the NIPD's permit?
Yes.
NIPD's is the federal permit that we were alluding to without saying the name of it.
Okay.
Do we have a copy of that?
You should, yes. I'll make sure if you don't, it gets over to you.
And so the timeline relative to this, does Ty and Bond
We
have
expect
any
it,
idea?
any day now.
Okay.
But it's with the state, so I mean, it could go back and forth a couple more times.
So, how about with the fire department? Is there some fire safety sprinkler design or something that needs to get permitted for the project?
Yes, part of the full building permit. That's in with the, like, the plan examiner currently,
Yeah, so
with Moriarty, who's doing the third party review.
how it works is we do it, it's phased, right? So what we do with all the large developments, so as long as they can get their foundation permit, we consider that to be something we can issue on, and then everything else, falls into place.
So I feel like either saw, so I know you and I discussed, Evan, a kind of a timeline that was like 4 to 6 weeks-ish. And was that somewhere in our package?
No, it's probably, that might be conversation we had.
Yeah, but I thought I saw it written. Okay, so,
In
maybe not.
in speaking with Brendan Giblin, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I always put the L before the B for some reason. His intent is to be wrapped and ready to close by end of April, beginning of May. For them, that's Q2. For us, that's Q4 because we're on different financial schedules. But they were that was the last conversation that I had with them. Maybe 2 weeks ago is the last.
That's still our intentions.
Okay. You feel pretty confident with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just out, obviously it's been 3 years and we did the extension for the 2 years. I was a no vote on that, thinking we should just go with one at the time. So now we're at 3 years and now we're extending it another year. And I understand it's in the entitlement, information, but it also states that, it's between two parties agreeing, so.
Correct.
The matter of a month is not what I'm gonna, argue, but a matter of 12 more months, at this point, for me is, hopefully, that's, if you just have one thing and you're saying it's gonna be, in short order, I guess I have to trust that.
So it wouldn't be another year.
No.
It's like another month or two.
Yes.
Well, for me, it's no secret I've had a major problem with this project and the chain of events that have happened since the RSP was approved by this board. And I won't go into the list, but it's long. Okay. So, to give an extension on a building permit that's been issued, but to me, it's not a valid permit until it's been paid. The town has invested a lot in this project, given out $1 million or so to the developer to date, without the developer having a permit, having an approval, or or paying for the property. So the fact that there's some kind of an agreement that the building permit wouldn't be paid, to me, that's not a building permit. So, that's just added to the list of things that give me major concern about this project. So I won't be voting for the extension. I think we can do better. That's me.
And I have a question relative to Scott Lamont's correspondence. Maybe it's not pertinent to this, but relative to like the affordable. Matt, is that more for you guys for affordable housing? It's in today's packet. Just specifically asking questions about units, unit types, 3-bedroom. Is it in perpetuity? Information like that.
Yeah, that's completely separate from what
Yeah.
we're considering here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should just cover that.
Yep. Okay, any other discussion from the board?
Just one more thing, just for clarification, most of this is not with Brendan.
Right. No, I'm completely aware of the situation.
Okay,
sir.
I just want
I
to make that
understand.
sure. I have no issues with him at
Yep.
all. So, just to clarify that. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear the commentary tonight. This was, an amendment, the reason that the language is in there is because we contemplated this circumstance and we thought that, having that option of a third year, was appropriate. and that's why we, as a board, voted to put that into the language. I'm really concerned if we don't grant this and we get in the way of this project, that the town is putting ourselves at risk. If this project doesn't move forward at this stage, I have some significant concerns about how that turns out for us. I'm a little bit taken aback at where we're at this point. I maybe shouldn't be surprised, but to me, this is just an administrative matter that the town needs to take care of to continue supporting the project that we've partnered with for years now. And a project that the Affordable Housing Trust has invested in. The idea that we would hold the project up because a board member doesn't believe in a permit that's been granted just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. We've it puts the money that the Affordable Housing Trust has spent already at significant risk. You know, we all talk about how we want to look after taxpayer money. In my mind, this board member's mind, that doesn't really look after taxpayer money at all. It puts that tax money at risk. You know, we're looking at a policy guideline tonight around board conduct, and one of the things that's in there is that when the board has made a decision, that we support that decision. And here we are. We're at that moment now where the board has signed this purchase and sales with the full intent that we have the extension to grant, contemplating this exact scenario, and now we're seriously thinking about not doing that. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, for me, sorry, I'm just going to jump in because I was here when we signed this, or when we talked about it the first time around. Again, I was a no on granting the 2-year extension, so I don't think you should be surprised that I have, you know, also have reservations now, similar to what I had at the time. So Ray and I were a no on this for very similar reasons. And additionally, the 12-month period is by mutual agreement, so we should get to have a discussion about, is this, you know, mutually agreed upon? You have 5 different people sitting up here. And as for the Affordable Housing Trust monies, you know, that is outside of this agreement, one could say. This is a purchase and sale relative to Select Board. And so, yes.
But if this doesn't happen, the project
I understand. I do not, listen, it's a very precarious position for me. Understanding that that is taxpayer money, whether it came from a lawsuit or not, it could have been in the coffers. So yes, I don't want to just kiss away 1 point whatever we're at right now, $1 million. But I think that having a discussion about it, given that it's in this P&S, that it's a mutually agreed upon extension, is that there's no problem with having this discussion. And as I said, for me, if we're talking about a month or thereabouts, that's very different than another 12 months after we've been at this for 3 years. And by the way, you probably already understand, you know, kind of contentious path through planning board, many people voicing concerns, so.
I was here for the meeting.
Yeah. So, you know, again, I don't think it's unreasonable to just have a little bit of pause and just make sure that all of the ducks are in a row, because there was some concern that they weren't previously, so. That's the line of my questioning.
Yeah. And I'll just say, and I want to argue about this, but, you know, this board hasn't put the town's money at risk. The Affordable Housing Trust has put the town's money at risk because you've given a developer $1 million before he even put a deposit on the land, before he had a planning board approval, and before he purchased the land. So you've given him all of that money, so the Affordable Housing Trust is one that has taken the risk with taxpayer money, not this board. That was not our decision. We have no control over what the Affordable Housing Trust, with the funds that they have. They made that decision. I thought it was a very, an irresponsible decision, but that's what they decided to do. We control what happens here. And, as you know, I've had concerns about this project, and I feel that it's gonna be detrimental to the community, which is aside from the fact that we're looking at the P&S extension. They've tied up the land for what, 4 or 5 years? Since the RFP was issued, it's gonna be 5 years, and nothing's happened. So, for me, it's time to move on. There's too many negative things about it.
And just a question, sorry, I need to jump ahead, but so no further entitlement period, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Go ahead, Andy.
I was gonna make a similar point that, again, realistically, you're asking for 2 months. The clause dictates that we have to grant you 12. I don't have a problem with that. It is the final extension to the entitlement. I think if, things go sideways and we're faced with having this conversation next year, then sure, you get, it's a very different conversation. But I also, it may not be the amounts that certain board members want to see, but I do believe we have, like a $50,000 bond right now, and that had to be paid in as part of the purchase and sale. So I mean, there is money on deposit. I think there's some good faith in there. I don't have a problem with this.
Andy, I think that money came from the Affordable Housing Trust.
No.
No.
Well,
For the deposit?
Yes.
Thought
I
it
think
did.
it's 75 too.
I think it was 50 and a 20, 25, I mean.
Right, 50 and
25 is non-refundable,
Right.
50 is refundable.
Yep.
Should the,
We've invested a lot of more time and money in that.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Public comment?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Come on up.
Hi. Bob Carroll, 72 East Street. Just a couple clarifying questions. For the NIPDES permit, you have that from the EPA?
Yes.
And who monitors the oversight of that?
It'll be time bond.
Okay. And then the other thing I heard is the permits have all been issued from the town.
We have
But,
a foundation permit.
I'm sorry?
We don't have a full building permit. We have a foundation permit.
Oh, you just have the foundation permit. So that's not all permits.
Well, yes, we get the foundation and we do the as-built and then they issue the rest of the building.
Right, but the language for the entitlement's all permits.
that's not the language for the entitlement. The entitlement is so that they can get their permits and can be extended so that they can finalize getting their permits. That's what the entitlement period states. So they don't have to have all of their permits before the entitlement period is extended.
Okay, I guess I'll leave that up to the attorneys, but, so they do have the foundation, but they
Correct.
haven't paid the money.
Correct.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recommend that we keep this discussion to the board. We've been through this a couple of times with,
Okay.
with Mr.
Right,
Carroll.
but if I
With
go to
respect, you
Open
sent us
Gov,
correspondence.
where the permits are to be posted, it does not show that these
Yeah,
permits
clearly,
are
Mr.
granted.
Carroll,
Okay.
there is no amount of information that's going to be enough for you.
Well, no.
And, and you'll
But
keep
I think
asking
as a
questions.
citizen.
So hang on. So I'll afford Mr. Carroll some time, and if just give us, I'm writing this down, what it is that we need to look for.
Right. So if the permit was granted, it should be on OpenGov or ClearGov, right? It's not there.
Oh, it should be on, sorry.
Mhm.
Should be on OpenGov, that's where I found it. So,
So you did a search on,
27
yeah.
Upton Street.
Okay, and so next,
Okay, well, I'll go look for it. I couldn't find it there. So, those are my only 2 points, by the way.
Okay.
So,
and so you can get us the NIPT, is that, if I'm saying that correctly, that permit, can you email that to the board?
The NIPTs?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll have to get it. I don't, we might have that in planning or conservation. I don't personally have it.
You guys could get it to us?
Yep.
Okay,
okay.
thanks. Anything else from the board? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jefferson.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the Second Amendment to the purchase and sale agreement as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Okay, moving along to.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Sorry. I don't have a copy of the agenda, so I'm going back and forth.
Policy for board and committee conduct.
Yep, which is me. So we are at, policy for board and committee conduct. Thank you, Andy. So this is something I've been working on for a hot second, and it was changed today or amended today, so to speak. Again, as William mentioned in the email, nothing of substance, and that was due to me just going through it late. So I proofread it today and got back to him. So I will take responsibility for the late update. And the only changes to anything that you read over the weekend were just, I think as you indicated, William, also in your email, anywhere where it says board, we're adding committee. So it's going to affect all boards, committees in our town, and they're just two grammatical things. So the intent of this is that we have a policy or a code of conduct. I base this on MIAA, other communities that have these, and kind of, as Evan said, Graftonized it with the assistance of William. So the intent is just, I think I can just, it's, code of conduct, statement of our commitment to maintaining respectful discourse with fellow elected members, those who work for the town, those who volunteer their time and services on behalf of the town, and members of the public. So we're looking at encompassing everyone who might be involved in any way, shape, or form. And by adopting this code, we're setting expectations for the behavior of members at every meeting, forum, or other official interaction in which we strive to treat every person fairly and respectfully, regardless of any differences of opinion or personal feelings. It then goes on to talk about applicability, a little bit specifics relative to code of conduct, and then looking specifically at community responsibility, responsibility to the town, people who work here, and then responsibility to fellow board members and other persons. And then lastly, there's a enforcement of the code, which ultimately references our section 7.8 in the Grafton Town Charter, which is already there. So any questions or comments on this? And if not, I'd love to be able to adopt this. Andy?
I reviewed, what was here and the MMA website and some of the other towns that are referenced there. A lot of the terminology seems to be very similar. I do feel like there is a lot of subjective terminology in here that is, probably intentionally wide open, but I don't know. It's my other issue, I guess, is when you get towards the enforcement area. It seems to cover what happens if an infraction or an incident would happen real time, but is a policy that covers social media usage and areas outside of the town, outside of public meetings. Sorry. What is the process for submitting those types of complaints? There's no real definition of the rights of the person being accused throughout this process. Simply that decisions are made by a majority vote. I don't. Is that going to be the majority in each committee?
Yep. The first three are relative to the committee at the committee level.
Okay.
And it's just the last one where it would come to the select board.
Is this something that the boards have to come into agreement that the incident was egregious?
Yeah, so my intent with this is that each board and committee in our town adopt this code of conduct, and then how the boards and committees function would be individual, right? So perhaps, how they handle this would be up to them within these guidelines. And when you talk about subjectivity, I mean, Like in terms, do you have examples?
It's really, you know, a lot of them like personal criticisms, you know, inappropriate manners, unruly, disorderly. Yeah, I feel like unruly and disorderly is fairly strong. I think we could all, you know, highlight that. But I don't know. I guess it's really just determining who. You've said it would be, I guess, by majority vote. Who determines what constitutes some of these things? You know, because it's one thing to me, it's a different thing to you, and you know, something else, I'm sure, to Mr. Alamo, you know, and Mr. Dauphiné.
And it would be different on each board, right? What that board might feel constitutes an egregious behavior. And again, so that can be handled at the board level. It can be mentioned, by the way, we have a code of conduct, can you just review that? That's it. No, easy. If it's something that escalates to the level where, you know, going to number 3, where there's, you know, warning and they might be removed, I mean, hopefully we don't get there. But what I wanted was some sort of framework for expectations relative to people who serve in our town, and not just amongst the boards and committees, the way people who come to our meetings are treated, the way we treat people who work here. It's just, you know, globally.
Okay. I guess wrapping my comment, I think I'd like to see something under the enforcement code of conduct that just outlines for the incidents that don't happen in session, or you know, if you observe something in another meeting, you know, just clarify the process for that. Is that something that we, you know, you would reach out, if you're the member, you reach out to the chair of that committee to have it added to an agenda? You know, what the process is, I guess, to enter that discussion.
Madam Chair.
Okay, sorry, just to answer this. So certainly the challenge, where I got hung up for a while and then just decided to look at what's out there and what the MIA has out there, was the enforcement. And so at one point I thought, you know, let's say we get through the first 3, or if it's something that's seen by someone else and reported, so on and so forth, that perhaps the chair of the select board, right, would make a call, which I went ahead and did in a couple of instances. However, that also comes with, is it this board that talks about that in this session, right, to give me the charge to do that, and how does that work? So it started to go down a slippery slope for me that I could not kind of reel that in terms of, you know, we're talking about something that's happened that perhaps is uncomfortable, or someone feels threatened, or what have you, and then that's brought to one of us. Do we discuss that here in open meeting? And if we do, we're now incriminating somebody, and we shouldn't do that without bringing them in. So there's a whole line of things that occurs. So it seemed to me that stick with this relative to within a committee, and then, but to your point, I can try to think more about, or with collaboration from anybody, how we can maybe add a section 3.5, if you will. Mark?
Yep. Is there a radio on out there? I hear. Are you hearing that, or is it just me? I literally hear like a radio, like a talk show. Okay.
No, I'm not hearing that.
So no, I'm fine. I hear something, and
You smell toast?
I heard the buzzing earlier too, and you heard it. I saw you heard
I almost
it.
put it
Don't
back
make me
to
look
I was
crazy
like,
tonight.
I'm just gonna put
I
it
heard
back
that.
and see what happens.
So it's an interesting thing though, because like I know what unruly behavior is. I think I do, but someone could say, you know, someone else's unruly behavior is, you might not think it is. So someone could say, well, I don't want that person on select board anymore. I'm going to accuse him or her of being unruly, and there's a little bit open there for interpretation. And that could be interesting, because then you get a couple, 3 people in the bandwagon, and before you know it, someone's out. It's not cool. But I do think I like what you're doing, and I do think we need to do something about this, because, you know, what I think is constructive, someone else might think is disgusting, which I could quote. I don't think it's disgusting. I think we're just trying to do something, right? One person's floor is another person's ceiling.
Right.
So I do think we need to define that a little bit to protect both sides of it.
Okay. So the enforcement,
Yeah, what's the definition of it? Because you can't have every little single thing
Correct.
just for the sake of the mood or the politics.
And that certainly would not be the intent, and given that
No,
we're
but it
all
could happen.
adults, and anywhere that I've worked, I've operated, well, my profession, I operate under a very strict code of conduct. So again, what I'm seeing might be different than what other people are seeing. So just we're coming at this from different perspectives.
I do like the one thing though, and I love that I hope that we can do this, accept differences of opinion. You know, I think that's what's great about this, the five of us. We're different. We have different points of view. We don't always agree. Definitely don't always agree on everything, but I actually appreciate it because it helps me to more fully form or evolve my point of view. I just hope we can accept those differences though. We should.
Part of the intent of this is, in addition to within boards and committees and relative to how town employees might be treated, ensuring that the public always feels comfortable speaking at meetings, voicing their opinions, whether they are
It's hard to do.
Yeah, on board with the majority or not, and that has been identified to me as being a problem. And as we know, sitting up here, you know, it's challenging, right? So my intent in part is certainly to protect residents and their ability to stand up here, stand up at town meeting, stand up wherever, and express their opinions on anything. And so that obviously, yeah, so if we can, I can zero in a little bit more on the enforcement. I mean, that was actually what I got tied up on, which is why it took this long. So I can go back to the drawing board. And if any of you guys have input, feel free to email that to me or reach out.
So, just a
Yep,
couple
Matt.
comments.
Yep.
I think that, some of the language is a little bit, up to interpretation, which it's gonna be. But if you've seen some examples of what, you know, abusive or inappropriate or, some things that we could, outline in the policy as, I don't know if that's in any of the policies that you've seen.
No,
but-
and I'd be happy to create or to give you examples, certainly, personally. But I don't know that that should be as part of this.
Okay.
You
I
know,
just-
anyone's examples per se.
It feels a little squishy to me if we
Okay.
talk about inappropriate. I'm a little concerned too about the sort of, I don't know, if it becomes, three members who just don't like another member and.
Yeah, that's not
they
the
can,
intent. Yeah.
So I don't know what that looks like, but some
Okay.
more, a little bit more specificity in that area I think would be a little bit helpful.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll be back in many months. Kidding. No, I'm kidding. Just the
Madam Chair.
enforcement part was the kicker. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, and you know, that line may be as simple as you know, indicating that it should be first addressed with the chair of that board or committee, you know, and then like an escalation that could go to select board if you feel like you're you know, there wasn't a resolution or you aren't pleased with the resolution, that you know, an appeal process. And I do want to just say that I think there is a lot of valuable stuff in here. I know I only spoke to a couple things. I do appreciate you know, some of the protection for town staff and things that are in here. I used to be one of those people that just thought government got bogged down in process. But having spent some time doing this now, if you don't have a process, that's when you typically get in trouble. So, yeah, I think you know, it's generally really well drafted, and I appreciate you taking the time to do so.
I agree with that. Thank you, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
good enough. I got some work to do. That's great. All right, thank you.
We have one hand down on.
Oh,
We
go
have
ahead.
one hand up.
Somebody up.
One hand up
Yeah.
on Zoom.
All right, we'll take a quick comment, Amy. If it means that you have the enforcement all ready for me, then
No. Amy Marr.
I'll
I
do better.
live at 36 Ferry Street, South Grafton. I'm speaking for myself, although I am the chair of the school committee. I understand what you're trying to do, and I appreciate it very much. I have a lot of concerns with this particular language. I think it's overly prescriptive. I think if you're going to ask other committees to adopt this, I think that before you adopt it, you need to meet with those committees and really get into the language of them. In my mind, you could take out everything after code of conduct and call it a day.
Thank you.
These are the expectations, and when you start getting into specific behaviors, I think that's when you start getting into the weeds too much, and then you're going to have back and forth about, well, what does this mean? What does that mean?
Okay.
And the school committee already has one, so if you'd like to see it, I could send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. I know that Donna was working on that when she was on the committee. Okay, so moving along to letter of support for per pupil spending analysis.
I can take this one. We had touched on this briefly before when we talked about supporting the Municipal Empowerment Act. I sent around a draft to everybody that after we discussed it here, I reached out to Ms. Mara, the chair of the school committee. We collaborated on it. The draft currently appears in today's packet. I'd recommend sending copies to the governor's office, the lieutenant governor's office, Representative Meridian, Senator Moore, and also a copy to Senator Lewis, who was one of the main sponsors of the Senate Bill SD 1912, which will petition the state to form a committee to reassess its primary education spending ahead of the anticipated 2027 date. If anybody has any questions or comments that they would like to add.
No, I already sent a letter relative to this to the LG's office, and I got a kind of a canned response from the governor and the LG. So I'm assuming that they're getting a lot of these, and so I think people can, also send them out individually, of course. When I went to the MMA conference, this was discussed, that they may in fact look at the formula prior to 27, and that people should be letting them know that this is a problem. So I think that, certainly this doesn't hurt, and by all means, I'm in support of sending it. Okay.
I support it. Thanks, Andy.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson and Ms. Marr.
So we'll take a motion to send this.
I move the board vote to send the letter of support for the per pupil spending analysis as presented and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. Motion carries 5-0. We're going to pass over the GUR update, and we're going to put that on the agenda for April 1st. And then the next item, the town administrator's office hours at the senior center. This was an ask by me. I understand that, someone has been going to those TA office hours for months. And I know that previously we did discuss this at the board level, that maybe select board members would attend those. Now that was, I think, before I was chair, and then we just kind of never came back to it. So I think that, it would be great that it could be offered to all of us to have the opportunity to attend those TA office hours with Evan and kind of do a round robin similar to the way we do the Ask Me Anything. Obviously, if you're working full-time, might not be conducive to your hours, but for those of us who are available and might avail ourselves to that, I think that it should be an opportunity for everybody. So just throwing it out there, if anyone has any discussion about that or any concerns, or if we just want to kind of forge forward with that and send out an email and see who can make it each month. And maybe it's not every month too, it'd be beneficial maybe for times where it's just the town administrator there. Okay. All right, great. Any select board reports? We lost Evan, so take your time on these.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I can go.
Go ahead.
So I attended the MMA legislative breakfast in Marlboro on the 4th. I ran into Mary Lauria there. I found the event to be a good reminder that we're all dealing with similar situations and issues throughout the state. And it's a small world when you get down to it. Two of the people I met, one was Kelly Dolan, who's the assistant town manager in Holden and who also happens to be a Grafton resident. She came over and introduced herself. We touched on this earlier, but I also met Sam Stivers, who's one of the Southborough select board reps who also came over and introduced himself to say how excited they are to be a part of our rec. They were also a little envious that Grafton was able to get through that process with its residents as smoothly as it did. when the hosts press the attendees, how many towns are facing an override this fiscal year or the next, the majority of the room raised their hands, which led to a good discussion around reevaluating circuit breaker funds and the overall viability of Prop 2.5 in general. I also attended the Water Commissioners meeting last Wednesday. They have PFAS filtration testing should be starting at the Trinity well in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Takes about 4 to 6 weeks to complete. This helps inform the facility that they'll need to build, because they need to know what the filtration levels need to be. They've already seeked increased state funding, expecting potential overruns through things like tariffed goods. The cost for the Worcester Street wellhead is expected, treatment plant, is expected to be less. It requires less filtration than initially expected, so smaller facility. They're still on track to receive bids for that early summer and get construction going in the fall. Their annual town meeting is at the end of April. Anybody who's in the Water District Service area can attend and vote. You don't need to be a subscriber. I just want to thank PAC 107 Quick. They invited me to come judge Pinewood Derby car designs. They have some really talented kiddos in that group. They all looked really fast. I also did my best to represent the board at the Troop 107 Chili Fest over the weekend. I did not win. I think I put in a pretty good entry, though.
You did.
That's it for me.
Okay. Any other board reports? I attended the Trustees of Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Committee meeting, and we talked about a number of things, including Memorial Day Parade will be coming up on Memorial Day, and there'll be an invitation to Select Board to march in that if they're available. I believe we also talked about the 4th of July. I'm trying to think if there's anything, I didn't bring my notes, nothing I think in the interim necessarily, but I can report back next time if there is anything. Okay, no other select board reports. We'll move on to the TA report.
Yeah, I don't have a formalized report. We spent most of our time this past couple weeks working on that budget. We did, as Chief Matthew discussed, we did spend most of the day doing rec stuff today. Two of us were together for most of the day. But we did tour SEMREC again in Foxborough this time to look at their software that they run, which I thought was an extremely helpful meeting. Most of the chiefs were there. I'm the only town administrator that's on the operations inspection type committee, exploration committee, I guess you'd say. So I got to tag along with them, and I really think that the level of service that will come from this regional effort is unlike anything we've seen before. The technology that's being employed is unbelievable, from everything from translation services to folks that call 911 on their cell phone, being able to give permission to the rec to view what they're viewing right through the camera in real time that gets sent to the officer's tablet. It's unbelievable. They actually had some really real examples of working fire scenes and then what and the caller describing it and the dispatcher being able to see it and then refer folks that were en route as to exactly what was happening. It's amazing. So anyways, that's been kind of our life here in the Municipal Center. One other plug, Nancy Therian from the Historical Society has created a display in the hallway here, right outside of our offices. We have a little cabinet in the wall, kind of, and she's going to do a rotating display. So this month or season or quarter, I don't know what her frequency is going to be, but it's about shoe manufacturing in Grafton. So if you get a couple of minutes and you're in the Municipal Center, I definitely suggest you check it out. It's really cool. She did an amazing job, and we're happy to be hosting that. So
thanks, Nancy.
Good.
Yeah, Nancy.
Awesome.
Yep, very good. So
Can I ask, was that something that they reached out to you to suggest, or You
Um,
kind of shopping for suitors?
So it's been something kicked around. I don't know whose exact idea it was, but it's been kicked around our office for a couple of years. We put a couple of, breadcrumbs out there to the Historic Society, and it didn't really catch. And then we were able to connect with Nancy, and she was really into it, which is awesome. I think it's a great way to showcase what some of the very, very small part of the collection that the Historic Society has down there in South Grafton. And hopefully this will help draw some people down there to see what they have. So, yeah, that's kind of the short of it, but we're super excited. I was, so excited to come in and see what she had done. It's well beyond what I was envisioning or what I'd be able to do myself. So
It really is neat.
yeah.
The only thing, we might want to consider a larger sign on the exterior to draw a little more attention to it.
Yep,
because
we're working.
it's a really neat display.
Yep, we were talking about a more permanent sign that maybe will draw some people's attention to it. But it's a small thing, but I think it's really neat, and I'm
it's great work.
really happy with the
We have
collaboration.
so many new residents in town, connecting them to Grafton's history is just such an important thing. And
Yep.
having it like front and center in the municipal center, awesome.
Yep,
I love
we do see quite a bit of people stopping, so
Great.
that's what we were looking for. Anyways, that's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Well, hopefully, like you said, it draws business over there as well. So Matt, you didn't mention the Affordable Housing Trust meeting, but I just wondered, so again, just back to this Scott Lamont, that correspondence, if maybe you could bring that to your committee and then let us know?
Sure.
Just respond to that to
Super
us
happy
for
to
us?
do that.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Okay, correspondence. Bringing us to correspondence, I jumped ahead. Anyone want to comment on any other correspondence? Okay, barring none, we will move along to resignations.
Madam Chair, I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignation of Doris Mativier as an election worker.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? I will just say that, we'll talk a little bit more maybe about Doris at a future meeting, but she's a long, long history here in the town of Grafton. I go way back with, my husband went way back with her, so I can't wait to hopefully invite her in and we can talk a little bit about more what she's done. Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
And opposed? Passes 4-0. And then lastly, tell me where we are, you guys. Public comments. Let me get back over to anybody in the meeting that wants to come up? Anyone online? Raised hands?
No one online.
Okay. There are no meeting minutes. No what?
I hate when he doesn't say
No
hands
one
on Zoom.
online?
That's
Come on,
Will's line, and he changes it up, and it just disappoints me.
Well,
I thought it was no hands on Zoom.
We're all waiting
Yeah.
for no
Yeah,
hands.
That was your nickname.
Right, that's your shtick. You gotta.
That's your move.
it stops being
Sorry,
special
Madam
if I
Chair.
do it every time.
Okay, then I will move us into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A-2. The purpose of this executive session is to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. The topic of this executive session will be the fire chief's contract renewal. The meeting will be adjourned from executive session and the board will not return to open session. So do I hear a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Upton, aye.
Jefferson, aye.
Alamo, aye.
Foley, aye. Okay, we are in executive session. Reason we'll come back is to adjourn. Thank you all.